This
Thank you.
conference will now be recorded.
Okay, let's start with roll call.
Yes. Mr. Kish?
Here.
Ms. O'Connell? Here. Mr. Jensen?
Here.
Ms. Holloway? Here. Dr. Bashir?
Here.
Set.
All right. Next, I guess, is up is Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That's right.
Okay. Next is approval of the agenda. So I don't know the,
We do have an amended agenda, which added 6C, update on the diseased palm tree removal, and then 8E, just an update on the county well field change.
any comments from the audience on the agenda?
Yeah, I'll move it, we approve.
Wait.
Yeah, I had a question about the disease palm on Cage Drive. Is that just the one small one towards the end of the street? Or-
Yes, it's
Okay.
on the entrance, but we're gonna get into that.
That's going to be
on the agenda.
Yeah, we're gonna discuss.
Oh, gotcha, okay, thanks.
What else do you want to bring up? Okay.
I move we approve the agenda.
my second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Approval of meeting minutes. Any questions?
It's just the wording, line 48 on page 8. Yeah. It's not clear. What I was saying was it was the NSF charges on utility payments. Because it wasn't just NSF charges, it was utility payments. Yeah.
And those were reflected.
Oh, good.
Great, we'll make that note on there.
Line 38.
And line 38.
It says that the other option is to apparently go to the slightly less expensive. Actually, it's more expensive.
So more.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, line 76. It says the prep pack has required a new attorney who submitted. I was just striking who, and say, and Mr. Pierce submitted a motion.
Strike who and do what?
Strike the word who
Uh-huh.
and insert and Mr. Pierce after the word attorney.
It makes it sound like the new attorney is.
Yep.
Any other comments on that? So we need a motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented with the few corrections.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Mr. Sutter?
Nancy, excuse me, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. If you wanted to do audience comments and agenda items.
We did. We actually did it in the wrong order, but we did
Oh, okay,
just do
other
that.
comments, okay.
Good morning, everyone.
And I'm going to ask if you can step a little bit closer just so that they can hear you on the.
6 feet to the mic. 6 feet.
Yeah.
Right on.
We'll put the lines.
Socially distance for the mic. All right. I apologize for the wording. Michelle wasn't available on a Friday. We changed our schedule to meet up, to do a drive around on Friday because I had an emergency on Wednesday. But, I had to change it. It was both of our schedule that we couldn't connect this past, that's why the notes also came out late. I had a death in the family. But we're back to normal. We're gonna meet next week. We're gonna look after the guys through the trees. We're probably gonna just do a revisit on the entire property, just kind of bring everything back up to speed, since we weren't able to kind of drive around and do our regular tour. But next week, we were scheduled to do the tree trimming at the beginning of the month, but our boom truck actually was down, got it back. We'll be back here next week. So we'll be able to do the trees here next week. We did some repairs and some irrigation on Newport Drive. We had a couple of roots that damaged some of the main lines towards the end of the same areas that have always been problem. We found another one. I had the guys take care of it. It was in our worst time. Last month, we were like the driest that we've ever been in a long time. So I had the guys do those repairs. And once we did all the repairs and got up and running, we got the showers, which is great. I'll take them. But I'm going to have a monitor the system, and if we continue to get that periodic constant rain that we normally get during the summer, we're going to drop everything back down to be conservative on the water and just make sure everything is up and running. That's going to be, our priority is just kind of pay attention to all that. Also, our maintenance guys reported a bunch of ant mounds and on Case Drive and so I had to come back out here and treat the ant mounds that we're getting, so people are walking their dogs on the sidewalk, it's kind of ant mound clear. Now that all the rains have started, all of the areas that pertain to the CID will be mowed on a weekly basis. We were able to kind of alternate as needed, but everything will be mowed on a weekly basis moving forward. It really wasn't a whole lot on my side. I do have a question. Chris sent me an email yesterday on estimate number 3921. It was for some repairs and upgrades that we wanted to do on Newport, on Case Drive. There's no water spigot that the guys are able to go get water on that side. They always have to kind of go around and go to people's homes and stuff like that. And what I wanted to propose was to add a water spigot where they can access water from the irrigation. It was an estimate that was sent, probably wasn't sent to everyone.
I don't have it.
That's what I'm saying. It's
For
fine.
Chris, I can-
Right, he got it, and this dates back on 10/27. He just was following up to see if it was done or not, but I hadn't got it approved yet.
I'll
So
find it and
I'll
then
forward you the
resubmit it.
email. I will forward you all that. It really wasn't nothing major, but I got it even I wanted to clarify. So,
And were you going to give an update on the disease?
yes.
Is this like a repair? Or do we need to?
Spigot.
Adding.
He's asking to add a
I'm
spigot.
asking to add a spigot out there.
In your contract, you have like an hourly rate?
Right, and this is a proposal. I got, stuff up, redo
It sounds like
everything.
repair and maintenance. It sounds like an upgrade.
It depends on the cost.
It depends on the cost, and I don't have the proposal.
Yeah.
Chris got them sent.
Yeah,
to me, but I don't know what the cost is.
For what's it gonna be?
Well, that, if it's a.
If it ends up being R&M, then we will.
Okay, all right.
It isn't much.
Seems like it should be much.
No, it isn't much. I mean, and I think there's some other repairs with the same estimate too. So that's why. So it's not just, if it would have been that simple, no problem, but I just wanted your approval first before I pursue on anything that way. I think there's just like the stuff right in that we got to do there, big out system on that big pump.
And it's just the one tree that was diseased.
Yeah, that's the only tree that was left there.
Well, there were other trees there. And
There's four.
they all,
Right.
there were three,
Oh,
and then
okay,
two,
yeah.
and then one,
Yeah.
and they make a story like that about
Right.
kids jumping on bed. But,
Well, the
so
Ganoderma
the
does.
Ganoderma kept moving, right?
Yes.
And so because of that, then you can't plant any palms in there, is that
We can
correct?
do a flowering tree, we can plant something differently. There is options, but I don't recommend any type of palm within that little.
Robert, you showed that to me when I went with you that one time. And there were some people in next door. I asked to put this on the agenda. There were some people in next door asking about it because they think it looks bare without it. So that's why I put it on here. But
I got it.
now, if you have any questions, ask him about it.
Well, I had a question about planting palms in the right of way in front of the lot on Case Drive. It
I
doesn't
think
look
we
like it's-
discussed
Oh,
that last meeting.
That was at the last.
And it
that's
was,
not the- sorry.
We voted it down because there's pipes underneath.
We had two sets of
Correct,
superblocks
yes,
underneath.
So underneath the grass area between the sidewalk and the road, there's a lot that's sold on Case Drive, and they want to put 3 trees. Actually,
There's two concerns. One is the utility, protecting utilities from the roots and so forth
Yeah.
and so forth. The other is more of a safety issue as far as maintaining that clear zone from the edge of pavement over to where it needs to be. Where it never-
I'm curious though, we did discuss that. And like the homeowner who was asking, we did not contact you, if you,
No, I had to reach out to someone named Calvin.
yeah,
He's the district manager.
Okay.
yeah. Usually he would respond to it, probably a mix up because he went on vacation.
Oh, yeah, he did tell me what's
We-
going.
We
Yeah.
started off thinking it was a no-brainer that we were going to say yes to it, and then we went into what's underneath that, and then it became a
But
no.
I had someone come out and mark the utilities, and they only marked utilities, cable lines, at the very like, front of the property, and I only wanted to put 3 royal palms in that right of way. And it looked like there was nothing in the way. He said that the sewer lines were on the other side of the sidewalk, where the house was going to be built. So,
You're right, the sewer lines run on the inside of the sidewalk.
Yeah, I thought it was
They would be,
between the road and the
within-
sidewalk.
Yeah, I don't have those drawings with me today, but depends on where the right of way is. You're free to plant whatever you plant outside the right of way, not in the right of way.
right, but am I not responsible for the sidewalk and that right of way maintenance?
Yes, you are.
Like, that's what I was trying to ask. I'm fine with paying to have palms installed and maintained, because I want to put the palms in before I build the house to get it established.
But let me ask you this, I thought we're responsible for sidewalks.
I did too.
And then, yeah, doesn't Soto do the,
You're responsible for the way it's always been. You're talking about planning between your lot and the easement in between the sidewalk and the road, right?
Yeah.
sidewalk and
That has always been a CID easement.
Right.
With that being said, yes, after you build, you are responsible all the way to the road. But it is an easement.
Right.
To give you the permission.
Yeah, it's actually the right of way.
There is one home, I think, or two that do have that.
Yeah.
And they've been there for a lot of years. Now, this is up to them if they want to enforce it now or if they want to allow it. That really comes down. You're doing it the right way by coming to them and asking that, you know.
Oh, yeah, I didn't want to pay all this money.
Right. Yeah, but that is a CID, and it's like the back of a swell. You're on Case Drive, you have a swell. The CID has a portion back there that, you know, that they're allowed to, you know, check on your pickup and all that. There is an easement even in the back. Now, you are responsible for the maintenance and all that moving forward, but.
Right,
there
and
is
I'm
an easement
fine
in the
with
back.
that. I'm fine with having water brought into the city.
There are no utilities underneath that easement on that section.
And I'm fine to have it, I can send somebody else.
Yeah.
That's not what we were told. When we made it.
I told them.
We were told the sewer line runs under there and there's nothing worse than roots and a sewer line.
Right. Now, Mitch,
The sewer line.
Mitch, did we do any locate of the
Well,
water utility?
utility did not locate that sewer line, so
So you
whoever
don't,
can be located.
if you call that, call the locate line,
Okay.
that's just the private utilities that would have came out and located. The public, the CID utility did not do any locates out there.
Okay. So it still hasn't been done that, because the guy called me when he was out here and said, you're good to go. The sewer line is on, like, on the other side of the sidewalk, where the pipe comes out of the ground. You can see the sewer line.
How'd they do the survey? What kind of survey?
I have no idea. There was some spray paint marking the
Yeah.
CenturyLink lines and electric lines. But it's been several weeks now, so you can't see it anymore.
I think we're worried about CenturyLink lines.
Yeah.
And we're worried about sewer line.
Yeah, sewer lines.
There's a force main underneath
How
there.
do I request that?
So normally you would call the utility, but since you're saying now we can put it on the schedule to do it. What is the address?
214 East Drive.
He's the utility.
Right next to the-
So I didn't know. There we go.
That's the beauty of coming here.
Because it's a private utility, you call like Sunshine,
That's what I called.
they don't let us know. So you call us direct.
Okay,
We will locate.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
That one might be different because it's right next to the pond.
It should
It's
have,
on the other side.
Yeah, you're right on the other
if I remember correctly, it's got a sanitary force main in it from the pump stations.
Yes, there's
The
two.
water is over on the other side, and the gravity's over to just be limited would be the center of
Okay.
So we'll get that done, and based on that, it will be presented.
Right, we'll present it again for next
Yeah,
week.
thank you for bringing it up.
That was the only reason. It's, for obvious reasons.
Right. We thought it was forced maybe down there, another person and the other smaller one was very planted.
Some of them, like I said, it's pretty much between you guys and them to allow it or not allow it, at least they're asking for permission, so, that is your area.
Then let me ask you this, if he goes out and checks and the pipes we thought were there were not there, those ponds then, I mean, does he have to wait another month?
Well, the other issue to consider is the safety issue as far as maintaining clear zone, that if a vehicle does go off the road, that they've got space to recover. And that's covered in the FDOT manuals and so forth, what that needs to be.
Yeah.
And that area down there is just valley gutter, if I remember correctly, so that increases that clear zone even more. We got a curb section, it's reduced that.
I have another concern. We're putting royal palms. Royal palms are fine for the first 5, 10 years, but when they get like 30, 40 feet, one of those little suckers comes down, that can damage cars, hurt somebody. That would be my concern. Who is legally responsible if a royal palm put in by somebody else with our permission falls, the big, when it falls down and injures somebody, would we be responsible for that or not?
Typically, whenever there's an accident or liability, thing of liability, the attorneys for the person injured will rep everything.
Yeah, well, I do.
And so what I would suggest, if the board's inclined to entertain this, I think we need detailed specifications as opposed to the verbal representation. And number two, I think the board will be, and also to create a record, because 5 years from now, 10 years from now, this is correct. This palm tree, royal palms, will go back to the minutes, they'll have a brief discussion. I would suggest that be like in the form of a right-of-way permit or a license agreement, allowing the trees to be planted and provide the dimensions, including whole harmless insurance requirements. So that, I know it sounds like maybe over the top, but I would suggest that, so that in case the district does get sued by anybody running off the road and hitting it, if the person asserts that the placement of the trees with the valley gutter section violates the, what's the uniform, the manual of traffic control devices, MUTCD, that can be a basis for a liability claim right there. I mean, I've seen a lawsuit in Lee County where a person was riding a bicycle on Stir Boulevard by old water tower, Carl Johnson State Park. It's now since gone, actually, like that. So that's the landmark. But that person hit a blue reflector that was too far away from the edge of the pavement, not compliant with MUTCD, and that sustained a motion to dismiss. So the person said, I hit there with my bicycle, I went flying, and now I'm injured. I'm suing you, Lee County, because you didn't properly have those blue little reflectors. So that's why we have a standard form of license agreement that talks about care and maintenance, who's supposed to maintain it, because 5 years down the road.
Right, it has to come down.
Who's going to maintain it, and indemnification. But I think a more detailed plan, that way it can be attached to the agreement.
And correct me if I'm wrong, since you did a motion to decline it at the last meeting and that was voted on, we would have to do another motion.
Right, absolutely.
We'd have to
Review it again.
bring it
So
back
change
up,
your question,
yeah.
we would have to come back.
Now, do we have to reverse that motion now, or wait until we get the result?
I think you can see this as a new matter. And I think if the board's of the mind to say, go ahead and submit it, that the consensus would be for the person to submit the application, take it up, or submit the detail. We'll take it up at the next meeting, and I can I have a form license agreement. I can plug some right now.
Okay,
So, sir, do you understand what we're saying clearly?
Yes.
Because we're on your side, we just have to cover ourselves.
No, I totally understand that. In 10 years from now, you guys think they're too big, I'll take them down. That's 10 years.
We're gonna have you microchip.
But I got a question. All right, sidewalks are, right? I guess we're also in front of my property, that drop. So, which I never would have put in it. I knew what a mess they were. If they drop and hit somebody on the sidewalk, then what? I'm responsible, they can come in here.
are there trees on your property?
Yeah, it's on my side. Yeah, it's on my side.
It's your responsibility. I got one dude, don't worry.
But it's the same thing if an oak tree falls down during a storm and somebody's driving by, I mean, I don't.
Well, if an oak tree falls down and it's one that wasn't previously damaged or any indication then there may not be any liability. You know, that whole area, after the vegetation, there may not be liability there, but if it's not diseased and rotten and you didn't know about it.
Well, we already had where there's no gutter, we got French drain, we already had a kid drive straight into the woods, like 200 feet.
Well,
Remember
again,
when that happened?
I don't see any liability for that because it meets the design criteria for road. In fact,
Yeah. But
if
didn't have to be
no
any little
guardrails,
stakes there.
the guardrail is not required or anything like that.
Well, there was no little blue markers telling them that the end of the road was there. You know what I mean? So
Is that the
now we,
case?
and the case where case turns into the wilderness. The guy went shooting through there 60 miles an hour.
It's better than water.
He walked away from it too. Why they found him walking down the street. So,
No, I don't,
In fact, it's on a curve. It's a
Yeah.
curve versus a dead end.
it's a curve, there's a street light before you get there, but there's no light, so I mean, it's just black. I mean, it's just, I'm just throwing that crap out there.
I'm not sure it's a requirement of the traffic manual, but we can take a look at that and see if there's any kind of enhancements that can be placed there.
I have a question on, directly across from my house, 231 Ks, the pond, which is right next to his, the strip of grass in front of that is there a sprinkler head there? Okay, that's what I was thinking. It's green here and green there, right in front of my house, and it's just down to the door now. That's fine, I don't have a problem with it, I just wanted to make sure we didn't have a head.
No, it stops a little bit before the pond.
That's
There's
fine.
a straight line there on that. That's pretty much it. We'll meet next week and we'll cover everything, catch up. And like I said, the tree guys will probably be out here more likely on Wednesday for sure. Okay?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, what I would suggest that if the board's of the mind, allow the gentleman to submit that application that be submitted to Nancy with the detail necessary for Mr. Soto and David to evaluate.
You wanna,
Well, I don't know if you need some direction, I think just a consensus.
Yeah, but what did you say? Have to submit what?
Submit more detailed plan, like private, the trees, the
The
distance.
actual plans of where you want to put the trees.
Yeah, I did actually send all that to Calvin, and I can resend it to
No
somebody
more
else.
vacations for him.
No, that's all right. He's got some from last meeting.
I
If he
we
needs,
had the detailed
we'll
plan.
send it
We
to-
didn't have the detailed plan of where the sewer and water, the electric lines, et cetera. were.
but we can reach out to you if we need more detailed ones, Mitch.
Right.
All right,
And if you can get Nancy, to provide me again the parcel number,
214.
address, I'm sorry.
214.
Case drive.
And it was, is it 214 or 241?
214.
Oh, 214.
Yeah, thank you.
You're very close to you.
Okay, 231, I live, he lives on the other side down.
Yeah, okay, ready for Mitch, utility operations?
Good morning, everybody.
Come on up.
I need to come up.
Yes, you
I'm
do.
as close as you are.
No,
We want you close.
It's only 6 feet out of it.
Yeah.
I'll come sit right with you, no problem. The good news is there's no bad news. The water treatment plant, no issues, everything's running fine. We did have an issue with the AC unit for the office. We had Brett and Son AC come out and fix it. It was a few $100s, so it was a minor repair. The wastewater treatment plant, producing great effluent, no issues with it. It's running right along. The fire station over on the canal, as we call it, same issues. We replaced the VFDs. The generator is running, but everything there is old and outdated, which we're aware of. No issues with the lift stations this month. They're all running fine. No issues with the reuse. Working on the new meters, slowly but surely getting there. The normal meter request, as we're putting new meters in, we're having some people call about water usage. But that's to be expected, I guess. And as we get bills going out for those, it will be more and more. And
so this line's gonna go up.
it'll go up on the back end, there's no doubt. the revenue's gonna go up too, because
The revenue's still going down.
Well,
the revenue, what you're making on the back end is gonna come up, because we have meters that I'm 100% sure are reading at 70%. Now they're gonna be reading at 100. So people's water bills are gonna be going up.
that's a question I keep bringing up, and I really need an answer. We should be able, at this point, your first meters put in,
Yes.
get readings off a few of them, a sample, and compare it with your office, with what they were billed of their usage the prior year. And if the usage is pretty similar, or much greater or less, then we need to be prepared for that,
So-
because the neighbors, they're gonna have questions.
Yes, and that's been discussed between their office and ours.
But I want,
And Kim Strupp is actually on site today and doing just that. So by the next board meeting, we should have that information for you to be able to bring it in on paper and present it to you so that you can see.
appreciate that.
So they're here today.
And I'm
reading
still
it.
last
Yes,
on the
ma'am.
list.
I told you you were first. We put you in first. So, and also with the meter calls that we're getting, for example, I have one residence that we changed the meter and they still feel like they are getting a bad meter, like the reading is really high.
Yeah.
So Cal's office went back and looked through your rules, and in your rules,
Yeah.
it is written that we can
What?
charge to go verify their meter. So we got together with Camstruck, the company that supplies the meters, and got a price to send a meter to them to have it verified in their facility and sent back to us. So we would like to propose, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, for us to come out and verify a meter, so bring a test meter, hook it up behind the meter at the residence and verify it, $150 charge. That $150 is not, I'm not getting that, that would go to the board or the CID. But
It's strictly covered costs and labor.
yes, and if it's found that that meter is bad, then of course the homeowner wouldn't have to pay it or they would get reimbursed for it. But if it's found that the meter is good and we went out there to verify something that was correct, then they would have to pay that fee. And that 150 is if we go verify it with our meter on site. If they request that we take that meter out, ship it to Camstruck to have it verified, put a temporary meter in, the fee would be $350.
But you can go out there with your meter and.
I have a meter that I can go look up right behind their meter.
Yeah.
Turn the water on, their meter clicks 1 gallon, my meter clicks 1 gallon, and we can verify it. But there's always someone who would like to have it sent to a factory to have it factory calibrated.
So if I can interject there and add to that, so part of the conversation came from Waterworks, the company that installed meters, and they had mentioned that in previous installations, it has come up because there is a more accurate reading and water bills do go up, and people have asked questions and have asked for the meters to go and get shipped back, and it becomes labor intensive and expensive to do that process. And so many other communities have put refundable fees because they stand behind their meters saying, listen, here's the fee and this is what it will cost to cover our costs to do that. We're happy to do that. If the meter is running perfectly as we are sure it will be in their case, then that fee is paid by the resident. If, however, the meter is faulty, then that's the story and they get.
So the resident has to pay up front, and then we
They
refund.
would pay upfront and then be refunded. But I think also, Mr. Pierce, if you wanted to, you were looking in here at or changes on that, and would that require those fees, a rule change in our document?
Correct, I guess the question was, next I had a conversation,
Right.
whether or not that meter testing and the fee, including the current rate schedule, I don't believe it is, to take it out.
No, it's what, 2%?
That's just,
Well, yeah, there's
that means, that 2% means it's.
That means we're going to do a look back.
right, what it says is that the consumer submits a written request accompanied by a fee in accordance with the rate schedule of the district in effect at the time. That's the question, is it in the rate schedule? And I think the answer, I don't think it's in there, is it?
Right, we didn't have a dollar amount set. It was to be determined by the board.
but we have the right to remove and check it at any time at cost. Once again, so I think what we talked about is the rate schedules have been amended by rule in the past, which is you have to do notice of intent rule amendment, and you have to do rule amendment. And so that would take a period 60 to 68 process to amend the rule to create that rate.
And we'd have to put an ad in the paper and things like that.
So the question is, would the board today want to authorize rule development to document the rate schedule? And I can't recall whether it's A, B, or C. I have to look at it. I'm still getting up to speed, so I apologize. To have a fee for this testing.
I have two questions on this, and one to what Terry's saying, which I completely get. Mitch is telling us, and it certainly makes sense, that some of the meters that are here in place now, the old ones, are off. And so their people's rates are going to go up, and they're going to question that. So technically speaking, out of fairness, if they question that, and they will, if we whack them with this $150 on the first go round, once they get the new meter in, that create animosity. That's one question. So how do we deal with that? My other question is, how will we bill it? Are they going to just have to cut a check, or are we going to put it in their billing statement?
When this was discussed with Cal and Jennifer, it would be, they would have to pay up front, and then the fee would be.
And they would pay the utility director, give him a check.
That's not
They
going to be
would
on
write
the
a check.
utility bill?
It won't be on their utility bill. They said it would be paid up front, and then it would be.
Someone has
reimbursed.
to invoice them, to record, it has to be recorded somewhere. that they-
But I think it needs to be paid to the district the way the rule reads.
Yeah.
So should a consumer desire his meter to be checked at any time, he may have this work done by submitting a written request accompanied by a fee in accordance with the rate schedule of the district effect. That's how I suggested that goes to the district.
So I agree with what you're saying, but it's new territory, and when we're putting in these brand new meters, there are bound to be some people that question it. It makes sense. So to be on the fair side of things, how do we handle that? Because that's probably the first place the bell's going to go off. And I get it.
What is the turnaround time if you send the meter out to check?
Probably 3 weeks.
3 weeks. So you figure it's going to at least be a month before we're going to have an answer.
Right.
But like he says, it's only if the user
Because he could do the on-site.
wants to test it.
Right.
If he brings his own and shows it's working right, we've done our part. There's no problem.
Oh, good point. So you can go, and that's free of charge. You can show them and
Not
do.
free of charge.
So-
Not free of charge. That's the $150.
Oh, that's the $150.
It's the
I
$300.
thought the 150 is if the owner wanted it sent out.
No, that's the
That's a
$350.
350.
It's 350.
So I did understand it right.
That is correct.
I understand what Ray's saying. However, if 20, 30, 40 people or more decide, oh, this is ridiculous, I'm not paying this kind of money for water, we're not going to be sending back 20, 30, 40 meters to be tested at our expense without them,
Which is
without
why-
them paying ahead of time. So, I
And
mean,
so
I understand what you're saying, but I can see a real problem.
And that's what the meter company recommended.
That's why
They
they
said it's coming,
recommend, they
we
said their
prepared
past
for it.
history is you should be
Well,
proactive
again-
and decide what you want to do,
Yeah.
because there is cost.
When we agreed to these meters, their failure rate was like, what, 0.02%? Something like
And
that.
that's what he's saying, he's so confident that
Even
they're
lower than
not.
that.
Yeah, I know, it's really
Really
low.
failure in the
But
state
it
of
goes
Florida.
back to the issue.
the last
of
Right.
difference each
Yeah.
month.
And we are sending in
That's
the
not what it
water
is.
bill, the letter telling everybody, look, new meters are coming. Correct, right? We're doing that. So we're giving them a heads up ahead of time that these new meters are coming, and there is going to be some, again, look at.
Some people struggle with it.
Digital meter, and we're already up,
Right.
you know, 1,000% over our normal rate.
So either way, we've got to pay the 150.
Yeah.
We call
So I say we have to do it because we can't take the hit.
No, I mean, it's up to you. For us, it's no difference. It's part of what I do every day. But for their office, it generates a ton of time and effort and paperwork and just a whole lot of effort.
I think we don't have a choice.
Because again, we just I'm working on reading the rules, so bear with me. But there's a part in there that talks about adjustments of bill that just says, if a consumer, this is another separate section of the rules. If a consumer requests an inspection or rereading of a meter, the district may impose a service charge in accordance with policies for service established by the utility department and approved by the administration. So that doesn't take a rule change. I think that sounds like,
Service charge.
that sounds like the 150 piece can be charged to the customer.
What about the other one?
But the removal of it is one
That's it.
that says rate schedules of the district in effect.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's one in there. I mean, I've looked at it, I'm going to look at it again. I didn't see one for testing, removal testing.
Gotcha. So how do we add that?
That would be the amendment to the rule. That would be the board today authorizing staff to publish a notice of rule amendment to add a service charge for meter testing and removal. And then,
But that the 150 we could do here today.
my opinion, yes, as to the, when our vendor goes out there and said, customer says, hey, can you check the meter? They go out there and they inspect it, reread it.
Yeah, the customer can physically stand there with us and watch.
Again,
meter
you
to
don't
meter.
talk about the service.
That seems like the best option.
That
to me.
service charge is when it can be charged.
So there's a difference. 150 is a service charge. The 350 won't be a service charge. It'll be a separate thing. We got to separate them out, right?
Yes.
Service charge is 150, that's done. The other one though, we have to name that.
So we would have to do a rule change.
Right,
So
rule change.
we need to make a motion to make a rule change.
I have one more question. Well, yeah, we can do that. I just had a scenario that if I had someone who called because their water bill had changed so much and they felt their meter was not read, they were in condos. So it took your company coming out and checking what she was saying. Is she going to get hit $150 just for you to go out there?
No, not at all. We go out and do that. Normally, there is no charge for that. We're saying that if the new meter or the meter, they say, no, it's not correct, and we say, yes, it is correct, and they have us come out and verify it. If it is found that the meter is bad, then there's no charge. But if it's found that we went out there and verified it and everything's working right, she's actually using the water, then there would be the 150 charge.
Okay, you're a consumer. Okay, he comes out and checks my meter, charges me $150, and it's a good reading. You think I'm gonna pull that meter and tell you to give me another one for $350? That's the point. My point
We
is,
would rather them,
well, I'm not gonna make him take it out for another $300. I already paid him $150 to come out inline check it.
but
So
you're gonna get your 150 back.
only if it's
If-
bad.
If it's bad.
But when I'm telling you, he's gonna find out that it's good. And then as a consumer, I'm not gonna ask you to send that meter out and get it tested someplace else for $300. I think it's a waste of time changing that rule. Because if we do it for $150, then the guy's out $400, $500.
So you're
It's all
suggesting
wrong.
just the 150?
Yeah,
and
I agree with that.
Yeah, we don't do it, yeah.
I agree with
don't
that.
do-
I mean, if you're a logical person, you're not gonna immediately say, wait, 150 for you to check it now, or 350 for me to replace the meter. No, because I don't see that happening.
And so if it comes up in the future.
Then we can,
and-
yeah.
and Then
We
we tell
address it
that
then.
person that
If
we
we
can't
find
send it
out,
out.
I ask you to send them out.
I disagree. I think most people don't say that, because there are some people that are gonna be
Well,
out.
then they pay it. That's exactly the rule. They're gonna be,
But then
There will
that will
be
take-
ship it.
That will take
350.
60 days, to 90 days to make the rule change.
right.
That would require.
So that's one, so that's why it's.
Might as well put it in place.
Okay, what does it cost to do the rule change? You
Oh,
said
it's
you
just
got-
advertising, we would advertise in the paper, one small notice, one larger notice.
It's not a big deal.
It's not that, correct. That's just the cost of the notice in the paper. And whatever time.
Okay.
between
So it would be over, you would have
my draft
the
of the
notice,
rule providing.
drafted, and then a second ad for this, to the next step. So it'll be 2 ads in the paper, which is $100.
Okay, say we're gonna do this. Okay, we send out the utility bill, correct? Can you put some information in the utility bill for these people?
Sure.
Can you put out the information, exactly what we're gonna be doing, what it's gonna cost them if they have a problem with the meter, the fail rate of these meters,
Yeah,
that we researched before we decided to go with these meters.
yeah.
So that the people have information. I know a lot of people pay, bill it, what do I want to say? Auto pay. I still want them to get their notice. Okay.
When's the next billing going out?
It's got to be soon.
The first of next month.
Yeah.
First of July?
So we read this month, yeah, the bills go out on the 1st of July.
My concern, I understand, it's more information for the public, I would believe that, but the language of the proposed rule won't be available at that time.
Well, okay, but you can leave that part out and just put the
Proposed
150.
fees.
Yeah, you could put
Or
proposed,
we could do the.
that we're gonna make a rule, you can even put it all in there. And it hasn't happened yet, but we're gonna make a rule change, this is what it's gonna be.
So for clarification, the proposed rule amendment would be the rate schedule for removing the meter and having it tested would be $150. 350, okay, I make sure, so.
The other one's a service.
An inline check is 150.
Inline check.
And so for that inline check, what I would suggest also that that's a suggestion from the utility. Again, the rule says the district may impose a service charge in accordance with policies for service established by the utility department and approved by district administration. So that's, I think Cal needs, Cal, Nancy, Chris need to say, yes, we bless the $150.
So you're saying I don't need to ask them for a motion?
Well, the board can say if we ratify that to direct administration, we put
Roll it on, yeah, we'll roll it on.
that's the 150 part. And the second part is a motion to authorize publishing notice of rule development with a $350 fee for the meter testing. Under section 4.21 of the district rules. That's the one about remove the meter and check it, et cetera.
Mitch, question for you.
Yes.
On the third-party testing, you mentioned that you're going to send it back to the manufacturer of the meter itself. Is that really true third-party testing? Should we send it to Brandex to test independently?
Independent.
Sure, you could.
That way you're getting it from another person.
Well, how do we know it's gonna be 350 then? How much is an independent check?
Well, I don't know the answer to that, but Camstruck told us 350 is the charge that is set at every other utility for that service. So it's kind of a flat, yes.
So then we need a motion to approve the 150 service fee for
Inspection,
testing
rereading fee,
on-site
yes.
the meters.
Okay,
Yes,
first, yes.
okay. I'll second.
That's for the 150.
This is for the 150 service fee. And then we need to vote. All approved?
Yeah.
Aye. Now we need, and help me with the motion if you.
I suggest the motion be that staff is authorized to publish a notice of rule development and draft a rule amendment to the rate schedule to add the fee for meter testing in accordance with section 4.21.
So moved.
Are you going to put in the motion the amount of 350?
At 350. Yes. Thank you.
So, second. All in favor?
Great. Jumping to collections, Stella Morris South. There are some sewer cleanouts that are sinking into the concrete. And I met with David this morning to see what is our responsibility and how to address correcting those.
So we're sinking into concrete where?
So
In the driveway.
the driveway, the cleanouts are in the concrete.
At least 3 or 4 of them.
There appears to be 3 of them. The rest seem to be doing okay. I didn't notice any kind of settlement per se. There's some cracking in the concrete, but that's normal. What I want to do is take a quick look and see where your responsibility starts and stops, and there starts. Generally the rule of thumb is that to clean out, but whose responsibility is it to clean out itself? So I'd like to check there real quick.
And these are in the driveway?
Yeah, they're in the driveway. We have sewer, land,
fine.
was having sewer
I
clean out
think you're,
in our, lanais, our front lanais. Right there, right next to the house.
Yeah, usually what happens is you've got the main coming, you got the lateral coming off the main.
Yeah.
Then at the property line, you have a clean out. And then there's another clean out right next to the building.
So what's the first one, the big one, the driveway?
That's the clean out at the property.
And normally, we're responsible up to that one. But my question is, the driveway, who's responsible for the driveway? For us to correct it, we cut a square out of the driveway and patch it? Do you replace the first apron of the driveway? Do you leave it? That's where I don't know. That's why I read.
Like line pavers in, that's our.
Yeah.
Russ, you could come help us fix those two, and that would be great.
Yeah, David, I think you do that also with the definition of rules for point of delivery. You could ascertain whether the district's utility easement is or right. That's what's important. If the clean out is, I'll call it outside or right of way or outside utility easement, then
It's theirs.
it's the company. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
I always assume mine was my responsibility.
That's what I want to take a look at and see.
Where they're located.
Yeah, where they're actually located. I'll take a look at the plans themselves and see where they identify where the property line. If it's on the inside of the property line or on the street side of the property line, then it's going to be the utility's responsibility. If it's on the property side of the property line, then it's going to be the homeowner's responsibility.
So these cleanouts are sinking. But how are they on the drive?
So there's the clean out, and then they put a little steel ring around it,
Yeah.
and then they poured the driveway around it. Normally your clean out's in the grass, but for whatever reason here, they're in the driveway. So they poured the driveway around it, so where cars have been driving back and forth, that steel ring is pushed down. And in some instances, it's fell out of the bottom of the concrete, and there's a void underneath the driveway. So if you were to look in there, there's that much area between the dirt and the driveway that is nothing, hollow.
But here's a sample. I'm gonna have rock installed. So I know that truck is gonna come across my driveway. And that pipe is right there. And I know they're gonna follow the pipe.
Well,
So why is it? that
These are just regular cars going across the driveway.
Right, and it seems to be just 3 locations for whatever reason. The other locations
Can't
seems
just
to
be
be.
the car. There's got to be water or something.
I think there's water that's getting in.
Some
Probably washing the dirt down the drain.
Yeah.
So the water comes down the driveway, goes through that little opening,
It's a pretty, yeah.
and fills that up with water, and then it flows into the drain.
I think like you say, it's
Just
just on
three
our right of way. It isn't. It's the homeowner.
3 property.
I think that's all we're interested in is determination. Whose responsibility
Right,
are those?
And then if the utility is responsible, we need to come up with a methodology to make those repairs that it's gonna work for everybody. The easiest way is to cut out a 2x2 square, just patch that back, but that may not make some of your homeowners very happy.
It's a fix, it's a fix.
Yeah.
Well, we can address that once you make the determination.
Yeah, let's take that
Whose
determination.
responsibility that is.
Yeah.
I'll deal with the homeowners, you deal with. Mine's yours.
Good.
So then, well, I'll just wait until hear from you, and we'll decide maybe at the next meeting how to
Yeah, how best,
proceed or something.
if it needs to be done.
Perfect. And then do we want to address the meter for here in Orchid Cove now?
I know
For the
it's
pool?
down on the agenda, but
It's down on the.
Oh, it is, okay.
Yeah.
But do you, I don't know, you all want to have it say until then? Or can we
Bring it up.
Doing that?
Okay, so you have a water meter for the clubhouse here, has 2 backflows. One backflow feeds bathrooms, the sink, the showers outside. The other backflow feeds just the autofill for the pool, but they both come off the same meter. So I think the question is that there's been sewer being charged for the autofill of the pool that would never be going down the sewer. So I know that we've talked about, or we talked this morning about putting a secondary meter in and running to that backflow so that they only get billed water moving forward.
So you can do that for my house too.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. What about others? Is this opening?
So
Do the board, you
So
tell
the
me.
cost-
I mean,
The cost for that.
the
is-
cost for that, so normally it's $250 for a meter install, but because there's not a service out there, we would have to dig up ahead of the current meter and tie in, so it would be $615 total.
So the request is, will you waive that? And Alice said it's not been waived in the past. Are you setting precedent that that's your ultimate?
My understanding is this is the first water only meter you have. All the rest are water and sewer.
Yeah, I can't.
If they haven't requested it, it's the only reason why.
So what about the other ones that are, the other homeowners associations with the other pools on the other side?
If they have a bathroom, they pay water and sewer.
Standard, but it's,
Yeah, but like in my case, I have to have my pool redone. So I'm gonna have to fill it. And I'm gonna pay the water sewer.
yeah, and I left mine on all night time.
Fill it out.
Yeah, well, I saw.
Yeah,
it
it's
was
just,
grass.
the impact.
I don't see where that needs to change.
And that's a one-time fee?
Oh, for us to install the meter and tie it in would be $6.15, yeah.
No, but I saw on the, what was it, the permit? On the permit, that's a one-time fee, isn't it?
Oh,
The installation.
Yeah, you want
one-time
to
fee,
installation.
Right.
And then after that, if you would allow water only, they would just pay the water consumption bill. They would not pay a sewer consumption bill.
How much was that a year? How much did the autofill, how do we know? I mean, we don't know.
We don't know.
I know this year was exceptionally dry and hot. And
Yeah.
I'm sure it was autofilling more than the previous years. But again,
It can't be done.
yeah, I mean, it's $650. Well, you don't cover the cost of it.
Without having a meter, I'm just taking a guess, but for, say, it's about $600, $615, if they're putting 100 gallons a day of water in that pool, or sauna, it would have about a 2-year payback, because you're not being charged for that.
Well, yeah, but we don't.
Right.
Yeah.
And then if you do that,
You were paying for the things too.
You'd be paying the $615.
And then we wouldn't
Then
get the
you
income
wouldn't be
from
getting
this.
this.
So we're paying more.
Well, I'm sorry, but you're not paying it because the charge should never be there in the first place.
But again, every pool, everybody that owns a
So
pool.
that's, I don't want to be,
No,
that's other people's problem. I mean, and frankly.
no. I'm just saying, if you overstand the works, the other condos might follow suit.
Maybe that's an appropriate can of worms to open in the third can. I mean, should people be paying sewer fees for water that doesn't go down the sewer? Is my question. Is that appropriate? Is that fair? Is that right?
Let's go one step further. If that's impacting your income coming in.
Okay, but
All right.
if you go to a public utilities, like our parents are in Naples, okay? They have a loss of water, major pool leak. Okay, they had to rebuild it.
Right.
They went down to the utilities and was given a credit for that. Because it didn't go through the sewer. They could prove that the water bill was this much more because they didn't go through the sewer.
Yeah.
Our pool doesn't go through the sewer. It's not on any other line. It's not.
But you don't empty it.
But they only did it for the water leak. So if you have a water leak, we'll do the same thing.
Right. Expect to hear from
I guess my
But what I'm saying is their line normally goes through the house, so it's on the house bill. We're just asking that you've got a line that is just for the pool.
Here's the bottom line question, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Should we be paying a sewer fee for water that does not go through the sewer?
So that's my point. Should I be paying a sewer fee for water I put in my pool?
No.
Same thing.
Right, and you shouldn't be paying it.
So you're gonna put in another line in every
Yes.
But I
It's not
mean,
right.
what we're saying, it
Why
can
do
happen
the
with
right
the whole
thing, that's the
community.
right thing to do.
We'll be getting into.
I mean, there's no way that you should be paying a sewer fee, the water does not go through the sewer.
Question is, are you going to waive, if they choose to do that, are you going to waive the fee? Correct?
If they approve it, they have to approve.
And then that's,
And the reason I say that is if you're paying it for the.
So
it would set precedent and policy too, that if you allow them to have a water meter, water only meter, then would other people be able to come in and request that same service?
yes.
Well, does every. Yes.
Well, why shouldn't they?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they? If you guys can, I guess I'm going to, everybody would have to pay the 615 one-time fee, but then that would pay for itself over time. But I don't think, why should we be getting sewage charged when it's not in use? Will that destroy anything for you back there? You know, is everything?
It wouldn't destroy anything for me. They already have a line running out there up to their auto field. If you were to go to a normal residence and put a second meter in, a second backflow, then someone would have to run the line all the way to the pool and do all the.
Well, here, actually with a home pool, you'd have to have a dedicated line run back to your pool with some kind of autofill or whatever. Most residential pools do not have autofills. It's only your commercial pools that will have autofills. So there's going to be added cost for a single family residence that has a pool.
Plus, most pools in Florida have autofill systems.
I'm sorry?
Most pools in Florida have autofill systems.
Residential?
Drain and autofill.
Residential?
Absolutely.
That's not true.
Well,
I'm going to say in our area, 20 years ago,
We're
because
talking
everyone in Delaware says we don't have autofill.
today, autofills and drains.
Maybe today, that's fine.
Your evaporation rate is that high. And number one, this is the largest pool in the islands. Not only do you have evaporation, but you have splash out, you have spray down where we clean filters. That's all water use that does not go down in your wastewater treatment.
Well, I don't think it's the largest pool. Is it the hotel larger? That's the same.
I know the hotels leaks a lot more. They use a lot of water.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this then.
Yes.
How many, you have the hotel pool, and how many just, not private, community pools are there in POI? This one and all the others.
There's 3 or 4, yeah.
All
Each
community
Arcade's got
pools.
one. And
Right
yeah,
side.
the other side, they have one.
This may be a policy decision.
Yeah.
It's not something that needs to be reviewed and a policy actually presented, whether it's going to apply just to commercial pools or whether it's going to apply to residential.
I agree, because, for example, the rules have a separate meter for fire flow, which is separate connection.
Yeah, and if you were to do that in other places, it'll be a little more expensive because this one already has a backflow for some reason. So you'd have to install backflows. Then, of course, every year you certify them, so they would have to be certified.
So the hotel pool is connected now to sewer, just like this.
The hotel is kind of strange because they have like 6 meters that feed the pool and the condos and the cabana and so it's very complex.
But how about the pool itself?
As far as I know, yes, they're paying for sewer and water.
Through the pool?
I believe so.
My question is, how many units you got in all of Orchid Cove?
160.
116 units. 116 units. Okay. So how much sewer extra do you think you're paying for 116 units to use this pool? How much? What is it? 50 cents a day?
It's a lot more than that. As a matter of
I'll
fact,
give you some numbers.
I'll give you some basic rates. Like usage rates. The rate here is equal to about 2.5 times a 2-family, 2-bed unit.
Okay.
So, and all you have is bathrooms. And the infrequent use of these bathrooms in here, and the infrequent use of the bathrooms outside.
Okay, so you got to spread that use over 150 some units, 160 units. So what's that cost? What's it cost?
My point.
116.
We're paying 2.5 times in water usage, water and wastewater usage billing as compared to 2.5.
Listen, I understand you 2.5 times. We did this when we went up 500% over on the boats, when it went from $30 to $150 a year. So you're talking about $120, big deal. My point is, what per unit is this costing you guys?
I'm not sure why you're using that as a comparison.
Because I mean, if it's costing you 75 cents a month per house for the sewer usage on the pool, it doesn't make any sense to even be discussing this. If it's costing you $100 per unit per month on a house, and I get it,
Well, we run a tight ship here, we look at every posting.
when you don't know the numbers.
This brings up a good point. Why was the second backflow prevented? I think it originally was intended to be set like.
But it does. In the hotel does, and the other ones don't. So I don't get it.
Well,
You're not giving me any numbers, you just tell me it's 2.5%, but you're not, or 2.5 times, but you're not giving me a dollar amount, what it's costing your individual homeowners per month. That's all I'm asking.
Why do you need that information to make?
Well, what are you saving as the?
Then why do you want to do it?
Yeah.
If you don't know what it's saving you, why do you want to do it? Just because it's right and wrong?
we know it's saving us a considerable amount of money.
But you
Your
should-
estimate, and of course, how long would it take?
I didn't prepare an estimate. What I did was I backed into a payback to see how many gallons a day you have to be using.
Right.
You know, in order to pay back the 615, it would take almost 2 years for you to pay it back based upon the discount.
$615.
Yes.
So that's $307.50
And that's based upon 100 gallons a year.
a year. Yeah, I have 116 units.
13 years we've been paying.
But I don't know how much water they put in the pool. Based upon backing into a number, it's 100 gallons a day.
You know what?
Again, you're talking negligible amounts of money that we need to go after things that are significantly more impact.
Throw in the 13 years that we've been overpaying by $600 a year.
So is everybody?
16.
Now, those are just guesstimates, that they have, there are no actual numbers because we don't know how many gallons are going into that pool.
But yeah, you figured out what it would be to break even.
To break even, I just looked at a break even point, it's 100 gallons a day, you'd have to be running that. Break even in 2 years.
Oh, yeah, scientists figure out the square footage, surface area, and evaporation rate based on average temperature and average humidity and everything else.
And even that's not 100%. Depends on the year, the rains.
So what do I'm not in favor of. So what do?
We either need to have a motion to move forward or a motion to deny.
I make a motion.
Develop policy.
Let me clarify.
We want to do, I think the motion, if you want to move forward, would be to look at policy as far as whether you're going to allow water-only meters for commercial pools or not. And what the impacts are.
Yes, I agree. And I think that's the most we can do right now. We need more numbers. Feel comfortable.
And it'll have to be parity. We can't do just this one. We're gonna have to do all of it.
We'd have to argue, in my mind, all commercial.
Yeah, we can't do one.
The residential pools, you probably don't need one touch.
Yeah. But it's gonna have to be parity. We've all been paying for 13 years.
I have a question. Clarification. Because the 650 feet is one thing. We can have a separate discussion. But in my mind, there's no question. We shouldn't have separate meter installed and stop paying sewer fees for water that does not go through the sewer system. So let's set aside who pays for the fee. We have agreement, but there's no way we should be paying sewer fees for water that's not going through.
I'm not gonna.
No, I do agree with that.
I agree with that.
In my city, when I was a city councilman, we had the same problem with people who wanted to irrigate their lawns. And so what we did, it was, you would have a separate meter specifically for them for irrigation. They paid for water only and no sewer charge, because the sewer charge usually was like 2 times the water charge. Why would you pay for sewer that it's not going down the sanitary sewer, it's coming down into the regular sewer right into our river?
So.
Yes, no, I agree with what you're saying.
Okay, so,
And there's no stored cost factor.
right. So.
If you wanted to do it, I don't have, me personally, I don't have a problem with you changing over and we can discuss the fee. But I think that if you're not paying for sanitary sewer, then why should we charge you sanitary sewer?
Right.
So can you just go ahead and proceed on that? Speaking on behalf of Working Code, the board president, I'm going to agree to swallow the $650. If we're going to do this, I think Dave made a good suggestion, have an analysis form, and then we need to come back and find, that would be required rule amendment. Again, you have a great schedule that you have to follow. This would be an exception category. So you have to amend your rule too.
But it doesn't change the basis. If the basis is bring it into its simplest form, the commercial pools or any pools are not, there should be no sewer fee because there is no sewer. That's basically what they're saying.
Even if you can consent to that, it's, the rules and the amended rate, you're allowing just to be billed for water. And that's not the way we're set up.
Correct, we have to amend the rule.
Right, I hear that.
I don't have a problem.
Well, I'm not going to say the rule's right.
You have to go the legal way.
Problem with amending the rules.
I don't either.
Allow them to do that.
And it's not just them, by the way.
No,
It's all of them.
all of them.
We have to do it all the same way, but what's right is right. If they're not using sewer, let's say we have 2 toilets and one of them you're not using sewer, but you can. With the pool, you can. So because it was set up that way, doesn't mean it was right.
Okay.
That's what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I guess the question becomes, I think we need to come back to the board with before we draft the document, what is defined as a commercial pool? I mean, you have the pools that the Department of Health regulates because you have community pools.
Yeah, it was a community in here that we could actually list them out. The Stargate pools.
But I think we'd have to follow a definition that's already established.
The DOH may be,
DOH
they're
rules.
regulated by the DOH, then you can make them commercial.
Okay, I have a question for you. We got the boats, right? They have potable water, right? Charge them sewer? And potable water, are we gonna run into them saying?
No, it's different. The boats are different. They're in their own class because they have pump outs.
Yeah,
And
I'm not talking about that, I'm talking about the ones that have water only.
I'd have to look, but I think we got some
I think we're
separate,
only
I think we got some
charging
separate rates for certain ones.
Right.
They don't slip charge water rate.
Right, and that's a good point. If we're charging the boats who only consume water only, they don't have.
That's what I'm asking.
Well, we had discussed that because of the pump out station.
right.
Right.
And then the pump out station is a FEMA thing.
And again, we may want to set that policy so that it's commercial pools regulated by DOH, and we don't have an individual homeowner coming in and wanting to get that special rate also.
That's correct.
Yeah,
Yeah,
what I would suggest before we get to language is also just the analysis of the fiscal impact. It's always important so that I can understand.
I love those.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, because you're gonna be taking money away from the wastewater coming in.
Well, the funds, yeah.
Yeah, so the funds, so you lose that revenue source, and that could potentially impact what the wastewater rate is for everybody else.
Yeah, now we have to double check, make sure it doesn't have any effect on the borrower. Because the rate schedule doesn't affect at that time.
But I think we gotta know that.
Yes.
But if you wish, we could try to run some numbers, looking at evaporations, rainfall rates, and try to come up with what may be a reasonable amount for certain size pools.
And then make sure we know which are the DOH pools.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So then we're doing a motion to look at the policy for water only meters for commercial pools. I make the motion.
No second. I'd like to say something. Something's driving me crazy, and it has for years. With this whole district, just because it was laid out by somebody 30 years ago or 20 years ago, doesn't mean it was right. And things should be adjusted as time goes on, things like this.
Well,
And
what
they
are we doing?
weren't.
What are we doing?
I know, but when you really think about it, in its simplest terms, it's stupid. And
Think about just that one item.
we're looking at the income, I get it.
Back to the community.
I understand, and you know what? If it costs us more, it costs the community more, then what happens? Then taxes go up. That's how it works. But it has to be structured correctly to begin with. And there's a lot of things that aren't, you know? There are a lot of things that aren't.
Well, you fix it one by one.
That's right.
You can't generally say, let's change.
No.
everything.
But we also can't base it on our income requirement, okay? If it's wrong. It
Yes,
needs to be
yes.
made right.
No, but what I'm saying is your income requirement is committed, let's say this year, we're working on 2022 budget. And if you have to know how much you anticipate lowering that income, because you're gonna have to lower expenses.
That's
And-
correct.
And that's a no. So, to know the fiscal impact is very important.
Of course it
You can
is,
assume it's low, you're not.
but it doesn't change if it's right or wrong. It just changes the
But it-
fiscal requirement.
I have an example of what they're trying to do. Book code already had, let's say, backhoe fences. When you guys put in backhoe fences, it goes through the entire community. We never got credit for paying for backhoe fences that we already had. Yes, that do maintain them for us, but we pay them. So there is that discrepancy that it is because we like a loving child because we came in after you guys did.
Right.
But nobody,
But that's it.
but we can
That at the time, it was considered, but you weren't here. Now that you're here, yes, we should reconsider this. But you can't just do it all at once, that's all I'm saying.
Right, but then it's been brought up or change hopefully in the future.
Yeah. We have a motion in a second.
Plus,
Yeah.
he's now in the process of installing new meters. I mean, right? This would seem to be the time to do it.
I agree.
Yeah, so I mean, the sooner the decision be made, better. I mean,
Who eats the installation of the meter?
What's that?
Who's gonna pay for the installation of?
you know, Orchid Co will pay for the installation.
Okay, so I think there has to be parity there as well. And listen, I know I live here, we've been trying to be real quiet, and it's not that. All right, yeah, especially all of the pools, the hotel pool, the community pools, there's gotta be parity. They're gonna have, if they want it, they're gonna have to pay for the installation.
I think that's.
Okay, so before we do that, we have a motion on the table.
Yes.
You have a motion that you're looking at the policy for water-only meters.
Right.
For commercial pools
Commercial pools
that are
only.
under 200. Yeah.
And
We
if,
have a first and a second.
So we have a first and a second, so we just need a vote.
all in favor?
Now, if you want to do,
Well, I think after you've got a policy, then we can change the policy and say, everybody, this is what it's going to be. You want to change it?
So for
650
now,
or whatever.
Orchid
but
Co.
right now, they're asking for a request.
Yeah, they
For you
want.
to waive it, so we
to
need to know
waive
what the decision is.
My capabilities.
Well,
Waive
it
their
may need to
fee.
just be on hold.
No, I'm not,
That's not what.
No, he said he didn't want to wait.
No, what did you say?
I don't think you can put on hold and waive it yet. It's in effect. You have to apply across the board. So
Yeah,
I would say that we'll come back with a recommendation
yeah.
at the next board meeting and then go from there.
Yeah, once we know how the board wants to proceed as far as policy, then you can decide on code.
So that's,
And that's a building issue.
This can be decided by the next meeting,
After
Well,
next
the
week.
direction at the next meeting.
Okay. Just don't put in the meter here yet.
No, you can put it in, but he's gonna pay the other rate.
Yeah.
One way or the other, he wants to meet.
No.
So that'll be set up as a second
It'll
account?
be a second.
It'll be a whole separate account?
People want the meter, so I can get.
So you need to put that on hold.
Paying for a meter, we're not getting.
Yeah. you need to put it on hold.
So we're,
So.
perfect.
so we need to make sure they get their answer by the July 9th meeting.
Or after July.
After July, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put you in charge of that.
Yeah,
That works good.
you don't want me to charge you this.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Anything else for me?
This, I did a little research on this, because it really is kind of interesting. That's May, and this is May. You know what this is? That's the COVID chart. A ton of people stayed here, like a lot of our neighbors, and never went home until this week. haven't been home in over a year. And I believe that's a big part of that consumption. I really do.
Absolutely.
It's interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's Mitch. It's Mitch and Nancy.
And now she's meeting.
Yeah? They have hamburgers waiting.
Okay, let's get into the engineering report.
Okay, the first item is new home construction and drainage issues. Right now, we've got almost 17 new residents being constructed right now, and they're all at different stages. Some are almost done, some are just have fill on the sites. So it's a handful of houses going up right now, trying to keep them all on track and so forth. I'm wondering if it might be helpful to publish some kind of informational thing on the website, maybe try to get it into some of the newsletters that the different associations have about what to do and not do in the drainage easements and so forth, even the private ones. You know, to keep them clean, keep debris out so they can function properly. Do not do any planting in these detention areas and so forth, and try to educate some people there.
The only problem I have with that is the major area where the construction is going on, which is in our area, does not have an HOA. So there's no way you're going to be able to tell all those
Yes,
people.
and then in those areas, I'm thinking maybe we can send out a utility bill. Well, either with a utility bill or with a letter to the ones that are underneath construction right now, just to say, hey, we're monitoring it, but you know, these are the do's and don'ts.
I think the letter is the way to go.
Yeah.
Because it's out of hand.
And the other question I had specifically to that, one of the things they pointed out was the one where they planted the tree. We're going to send a letter to them to say they can move the tree out of our, okay.
Yes, yes.
Oh, the lime tree?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought I saw it today.
They got a letter. They got a letter already.
Okay.
They told
Did
me,
you get a letter?
yeah, they told me to move.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So we'll have
Send
to
a letter.
put together a letter of the do's and don'ts that you can look
Yeah.
at and the board can approve and we can send out.
But I have a question for you. If I look out my back, I have that back swale. There's a vacant lot next to me, and for some reason, my swale is here. Theirs has moved naturally. And then this person, I think, had some sort of variance because he's so close to the canal. So what does this new homeowner do? Does he follow the swale that's there? Does he fit it in?
It's a matter of fitting in. The drainage easements in the case are based upon the property line. The property lines in many cases fall out of the canals, and it compromises that drainage easement anywhere from nothing to 10, 12 feet that we lose in that drainage easement. So it's a matter of getting things to fit the best we can to maintain that drainage and the volumes of the swales and so forth. It's a challenge.
What about, I know the homeowner or the builder is responsible for repairing the sidewalks. What about the sidewalks they're tearing up from vacant lots? I imagine that those homeowners don't even know it's happened.
If we can assess who's damaging it, then we can go ahead and try to get those repaired by those people. But it's a matter of finding out who actually does the damage to them.
Well, I myself see it, it's right across the street.
Okay.
I mean, it's a sand dune right now. And they've even put their builder, not builder, but their topsoil, in the guy's lot. They might have his permission, I don't know, but they have torn up that whole lot and are breaking the sidewalk. And I know they'll fix what's in front of the house, but will they fix this guy's property?
I think we need to approach them about fixing the other damaged sidewalk.
Yeah, be proactive.
I take some pictures.
I could talk.
Yeah, let's try.
Yeah, I've talked to that the owner builder several times also. So we'll talk to them about making sure they get the other ones repaired also. Sorry?
What's the address? I'm sorry.
It's 176, isn't it?
No,
Or 174?
174.
174 Sunset. All right, good. Getting down to Stella Maris drainage, we did have, after the meeting last month, Lee Smith approached me about getting together and finding out more about how drainage system works in his community and so forth. And we did do that. We met with him and Diana Mora.
Yeah.
And we went over how the system works, what's its intent to do some water quality treatment in conjunction with doing some attenuation of the storms and how the discharge is supposed to work. From my observations, cursory observations out there, it looks like after the dock work has been done, looks like those ditches have been pretty much brought back to where the plans show. Then they started talking a little bit about concerns about safety and so forth, about having to cross the swales and so forth. And right now, the plans itself, except for one sheet of the whole plan set of the original development, there are no provisions for access from the residences over to the docks themselves. One sheet, for whatever reason, showed a walkover, but that's just on one sheet.
Yeah.
They started talking about safety, and at that point, I felt that maybe it was time for me to bow out of the conversation. So I gave them a list of engineers that I knew of that they might want to go ahead and approach to try to go ahead and do some negotiations, I guess, with themselves and their master association to see if there might be some crossovers that could be provided. So that's kind of where we're at with Salamarza, north on the drainage.
Okay, so the drainage that's there from the resident to the docks.
Yeah.
Is the homeowners association responsibility?
You're correct. Yeah.
Just like it is.
It's a back swing. It's a back swing. And, you know, for safety reasons, you'd like to see a walkway, one or two walkways so you can get to the boats. And that's,
Right now, they got walking that swale, there's a 4-to-1 slope going down to the bottom, then back up again, and about a 5-foot ledge alongside the.
what do you
the docks
do,
themselves.
from what I hear, let's say it's the masters, you would know more than me. So they're the ones saying no walkways for whatever reasons. If, how do you get them to realize the safety issue? I mean, how do you make them
You mean
change it?
Stellar's North?
Yeah, is it like a board? You just got to keep it back to
Yeah.
the bathroom?
What you're asking the town, we explain to them, is that what you're?
Well, they were told that there's not going to be walkways. So,
I've had, the drainage system in Stellar's North is their responsibility.
right,
If they want to put walkways over it, I suspect they can, as long as they do not interfere with.
well, they tried it, but the masters do not want to put it in.
Well, that's
Yes.
that's where you have one layer on top of another
Yeah.
layer.
How do you get detached? You know,
We are attached. We are attached. And
We don't
that's
have
why I
anything to
suggest
do
they
with
get
it.
their
That's
own
all
engineers.
theirs.
Deal with it.
I mean, it's sad.
No, you were correct when you bowed out at that point, because that's their responsibility, not ours.
I think they're just trying to find a solution.
Well, they are.
We can't be the solution, so.
Yes.
Now, I want to just say something because Mr. Lee, Frank Lee, what is his position?
He doesn't have, I think he's just a homeowner.
Wasn't he the head of the
Well, he has been.
Master Association? Okay. He contacted me this week when he couldn't get a hold of Cal and he couldn't get a hold of Russ. And I said, well, you know, they're busy. I'm like, I have to answer the phone. I'm very fortunate. And what's been going on over there? Some kind of a major war.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of infighting. And,
You're just realizing.
They're no,
yeah, I try not to.
they're no Mr. Sue conduct.
Yeah, but what's going on is they had a board meeting, North, had a board meeting last Sunday night. And Mr. Smith evidently said he had a secret meeting with you. And you made all these comments. And I said, no, he would never do that. And I said, the only reason he was over there was because of our agreeing to repay when the construction was done. That's it. Oh, no. We're done. That's as far as this goes. So there's a lot of personality conflict going on. There's 3 or 4 factions going on. And my suggestion, because I'm the one that was pushing to repave it on, on us and the whole thing and trying to help, I say we put the brakes on that until this thing is smoothed out. Because I'm going to tell you, it's a horror show.
Put the brakes on the road.
On
You
the
can't do
pavement.
that. You can't do that. Oh, we have.
We're going to do it, but I think it's not done yet. They're talking about other things that have to be done.
But
I'm
then
not saying
they
don't do
just
it.
have to clearly understand what is the responsibility of the association.
That's the
compared
hard
to the
part.
CID.
That's what I'm getting
That
at.
road, if we do anything to that road, we will do what the CID is responsible for.
I agree.
And you don't put it off because they're fighting.
Right.
And I think what Mr. Smith meant by a secret meeting was he didn't ask the board if he could meet with the person. That's what he means by a secret meeting, because they evidently don't like him talking to other people.
That's not how it was perceived. But regardless, I don't know any of it, okay? But there's a lot of misinformation. And all I'm saying is, the dock thing was supposed to be done in March. It's still going, right? There's,
No,
but is there still construction over there? There's still trucks over there?
They're all electricity's hooked up and they.
Then what's the problem?
The swale right now.
The problem is Stella Maris North.
Right, that's right.
That's the problem.
Okay.
You know,
And if we do the repaving like I want to do, how are we dealing with the drainage?
We'll get into that. I think it's on the agenda.
It's next one down.
So let's,
Okay.
after we get.
So let's get into it.
Good. No, what are we doing now? Let's finish what we're doing. Engineering?
Well, yeah, well, actually, part of my report is also Stella Maris Drive repairs. And we've got the plans produced and so forth. Tony's been able to give some comments back on the specifications and contract language, so we're gonna go ahead and incorporate that language in there. What we've got the plan set up to do is to, as one bid alternate, doing just a mill and overlay. It would go back just exactly the way it is now, with things being sloped into the middle. The second bid alternate we did is to go ahead and put a concrete valley gutter down the middle of the road to help collect that water, move the water to the catch basins, and positively get it off the roadway. Just to enhance the life of the roadway and longevity. So we'll probably get those things. We're ready to go ahead and advertise that probably in the next week or so. Then get your bids back, hopefully have them back for your next board meeting to consider. And then we can move, at your pleasure, whether we move forward or not.
The last upgrade on that, I didn't understand it. You said.
We got, the first bid is just mill and overlay. The second one, we're gonna go ahead and
Valley gutter.
put the valley gutter in, then we'll mill and overlay the rest of the pavement leading to it.
And then there was a third one, something about the catch basin.
Oh, about the catch basins, we were looking to maybe try to do some modifications around the catch basins, but we decided there we were just gonna go ahead and put a concrete apron around the catch basins to help get the water to those catch basins. So that's.
So there really isn't a third one?
No, there's not a third one.
All right.
Not a third one. So that's where we're headed with that one. That's all right. I'm going to skip down to item E, and that's just mainly an update on some meeting I had with Collier County. They're in the process of updating the groundwater protection ordinance, and part of that was redrawing some of the maps and so forth that show the protection zones. Unfortunately, the maps aren't at the same scale, so it's very deceiving. But anyway, again, they updated the maps to reflect more actual conditions today. Plus, there's some other things in the groundwater ordinance they're going to be modifying as far as uses within the different zones and so forth. But our well field's way far out. There's no potential uses out in that area that would ever happen. So I don't think we have too much to worry about there.
Just a quick, if you wouldn't mind, on the drive repairs. I know that whatever, we're going to decide how we're going to repair Stella Maris Drive North. It's going to be our decision, not Stella Maris Drive North's decision, how we repair their roads.
Right.
Number two, we need to tell them now, if I'm not mistaken, legally, according to the paperwork, they're responsible to take care of the drainage.
Right.
What they decide is going to be done, and they're responsible to pay for it.
Right.
And this is going to be a huge problem, to say the least. Because they're not going to want to pay for anything. They think that legally they do not have to pay for it. So I think we need to put them on notice now that if we decide to do this, that, and the other, that they're going to be responsible to pay.
You got it. Contract.
Correct.
Please. There's a contract saying what they're responsible for and what we're responsible for. And we clarified that last meeting.
Correct.
And as far as giving them a heads up, read the contract.
Well, I'm just
Not that easy.
I'm just
But I think-
telling you, I know those people, I
We
know
could muddy the
Celebrate
waters.
and what goes on over there.
I know, and you're not gonna stop them by trying to inform them because they have their own way of thinking.
Yeah, under the agreement, the district's obligation, only obligation is the asphalt surface.
Yes.
It's not even the base or something, arguably. It's just the asphalt surface.
So we took that a little further, then does it fall under what he's saying?
No, I think Dave's, I think an assertion could be that if we were to do the valley gutters and the concrete collars and the catch basins, that helps maintain the life of the asphalt surface.
That's correct.
So it could cost less in the road. So I think that's the engineering rationale. That doesn't
Yeah.
fall outside the obligation, but it's optional.
It's optional. Then it, you know, and then it's really up to the board to decide whether they're gonna ask for any kind of reimbursement or partial reimbursement or whatever from selling bars. And I'm gonna let you guys decide that.
Yeah.
But we're gonna get the prices and then see where we're at.
We'll have our attorney be ready because.
Be ready? Hopefully it's wrong.
The last item is number D, and that's the CA, capital improvement plan review. And I don't know if you all are ready to discuss that today or not. We've got some ideas, suggestions. We did notice one thing that needed to be corrected as far as some responsibility for drainage in one of the communities. That it really isn't the CID's responsibility. Evening Star, it's actually the Masters Association.
Yeah, I've seen that. It's a nice report. It made me feel better about the CIP. I was having nightmares about it, about funding for future years and everything, especially with up in the air with the 50 acres and whatever. But it's a good report. And
It was 25 grand, it should be.
you authorized it, didn't you?
Yeah, but it was 25 grand, it should be a good report.
And it's got a pretty good, you know, we got a pretty good inventory of what's out there and so forth, the needs, you know, the conditions of some things. You know, I guess as far as shaping the actual implementation of the capital improvement plan now is what are some of the key projects that you think need to go up to the top of the level? And then also, how much do you want to be putting into the CIP each year?
Right.
And that way we can go and
That's
start
what we have to
tailoring
prepare.
things to meet those needs.
Right.
And I think that's important because I know we're working on 2022 and it's a little late for that.
Yeah, this year maybe
We're
not
out of
the year.
time. Yeah, we need to,
Is that CIP report on the portal, on the website, is that on the website for others to see, the CIP report that you just did?
I don't think so.
I don't think
No,
Well,
Sorry, I missed-
have it?
this was done for the board. It was just presented.
Yeah, this is
Right,
for the
but we
board.
all paid the 25,000, so can the public have a copy of that report on your website?
I don't think it's accepted yet, though, really, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah,
That's what
still
we're
in the
looking at.
draft.
We're reviewing it.
Okay, after you approve it, will that be?
Then it can be posted.
Public.
It's a public record, yeah, I would suggest that we leave it draft.
It's like a draft.
Yeah, it's a draft right now.
That's all.
Yeah, it's not finished yet, but
All right.
You know, so some of the projects we talked about on the utility side, and that's really the bigger chunk of this, there's a asbestos cement transmission main that's out there on the well field, and it goes back to the original days. That's probably one of the ones that's up near the top. I'm not gonna say it's number 1 or number 3 or 4. Mitch has already talked a little bit about the fire irrigation canal pump station replacement, that it's probably long overdue. So those two seem to jump right up at the top, in my mind. Then after that, it's a matter of maybe trying to fit things in, being flexible where we put some things. You know, there's some real small projects like number 3, that fire hydrant rule, the North Hotel, that's a hydrant that just needs to be removed. It's on the potable system right now. It just needs to be done away with. So there's some small things.
Very bad.
Yeah, I'm sorry, table number 7.
Thank you.
Second to last.
What, when I read, what came to mind for me was that transmission main, and it's built one way down till it enters the communities, and then the pipes were changed.
Oh, now this is the well field.
No, the first one, I'm back to first, is that the well field?
Yeah, that's the well field. That's
Isn't
from,
that the line going down Union Drop?
no, that's the line that comes from the well field down to the water.
I missed that.
Now, Dave, how long is that line? Mile and a half? About a mile and a half?
I would guess a mile and a half.
Yeah,
And that went in when the hotels went in, I assume, in the 60s?
yeah.
Yeah, I think that was original.
And if there's a leak in that main, do you have a way of detecting it fairly quickly? Like if a truck went over and stuff? Because you had that washout.
In the wintertime, when the water table's down, absolutely.
Oh.
In the summer, when the water table's up,
Don't tell
I don't know how we would.
So you can't go by the amount of flow coming in?
Well, you can, because you can get a rough idea of how much the wells are pumping
Yeah.
and how much water is actually being.
Oh, yes, I would miss the water,
Yeah.
of course, I would know. But how I would physically find it,
Oh, I know.
in dry season, would be no problem, we'd find it. But in rainy season, I'm not sure.
Now, there was talk, Dave, 3 years ago, about replacing that or putting in a pumping station, a new type, up by the gun range with these pipes that run along the bank of this canal, back to Union, that I guess have holes in it or whatever. It's like collection pipes. And at the time, Ron had said that to replace the main was around $1 million. To do it this way and shoot a line to the water plant was $250,000 at the time, a substantial savings. But then he went on to say, and if we did that, we would keep the other one as a backup, the main, the concrete main as a backup. Do you know any more about that?
No, I haven't done any studying on that at all, but I know that was looked at one point. Ron did say something about that, and it can be looked at additionally also. It would probably require.
Oh, sorry.
Well,
He was talking about using that property back there, those 50 acres, and putting shallow wells in that are horizontal to supply the water instead of drilling straight down.
Right.
So it was another use for that property.
Right, and if we did do that, it may restrict some of the development that could be out there perhaps. We'd have to look at that a little bit.
Right.
Because you'd want to make sure that you had added protection over that property.
It would have to be a water district, so that would negate any sale.
It could,
Yeah.
it could. I'm not saying it would negate it 100%, but it may restrict what can happen.
I thought it was just down along the canals itself, which we can't use it anyway. So.
I think it's more, and I don't know enough about it, I'm guessing it was some kind of sink a wet well or something that start drawing the water in.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask you a question. The number one on table 7, project number 1, well field, AC transmission reflector, that's the most expensive. Is this the same thing that,
One on page 3.
are we talking about the same one that's on page 4 with A and B, water transmission? Is that what we're talking about? Or is that what that project is what I'm trying to say? In other words, are they, yeah,
They're separate, that's 2 separate lines.
Yeah.
so which one, the one on page 4, we're talking about the 8-inch.
That goes from the water plant up through the center of Union Road and crosses over to the other side, and that's asbestos as well.
Yes.
Now, both of those were installed approximately the same
Yeah,
time.
what he's asking, where in this description
Is it in,
is,
It would be underneath probably page 2, looking real quick at 2. Oh, actually, it's on page 3, at the very top, well field transmission main, approximately 50 years old, 8-inch AC pipe, approximately 11,000 linear feet.
So Mitch, both of those lines were put in early 60s, both asbestos concrete. By that, they're concrete only wrapped with asbestos. They're not made with asbestos.
Well, actually, the process is, they take cement and asbestos fibers, and they cast it all into a pipe.
Okay.
Scientifically, they say it's harmful, we don't need to worry about The asbestos drain on our last.
Harmless, please.
So if we have harmony less, harmful, it's not harmful.
Right.
I'm sorry, it's not harmful. The only time that it's harmful is if you would take a piece of that pipe and start cutting it,
Right.
releasing the fibers.
Right.
But in a state where it's sitting in the ground, it should be no issue at all. The only problem with it is that as it ages, it gets real brittle, subject to breaking a little bit easier.
So my understanding is those are $1 million a piece.
Yeah, they're expensive. What we would look to do with the transmission main from the well field, we look at doing a directional drill using high density polyethylene pipe. That way we won't have to disturb the access roads and so forth. We just have some access pits where we would drill.
But you're saying run a parallel line made out of the PVC?
Out of the, yes.
Right, so there'd be two lines, and the PVC would become the primary.
It would become the primary, and then you grout. Would you have to grout it?
I think you can keep it if you want, but if you don't use it, you might as well throw it away. So I would say we would, I don't know if we really need to go ahead and grout it out there. We might just go ahead and just abandon it in place, because there's not going to be a lot of heavy traffic. It's our own traffic over it.
How deep are those pipes?
It must be really deep because we had the washout, I told you.
Yeah.
That washout was 3 foot, and I specifically went and looked for that pipe and never did see it.
So a truck passing over, it's not really gonna interrupt. It's down 6 feet.
We've had our big crane back there multiple times. No
Yeah.
issue.
They may have constructed that line before they built the road out there.
That would be
Built
my
the road
guess,
over the
yes.
top.
Well, those must have been put in for the hotel. They had to be put in by Great American, the developers originally. Had to go back to the 60s.
Right.
There's $2 million.
So, but we're looking at a line and we don't even know what it looks like.
We just
We don't know what, we just know it's old.
We know it's asbestos.
Yeah.
We just know it's
Like I said, it may not be the #1 project. Maybe it's something we kick down the line a little bit, but somewhere we need to be, it needs to be up near the top somewhere, only because when it breaks.
I think.
It's number 4 on my list. Looking at
You number 4?
Yeah, it's number 4 in importance to me, but
Okay.
What's number 1?
It's the fire.
the canal
Oh,
station,
without a doubt.
Yeah.
the canal station by far is my biggest worry.
Spelled fear, and I agree with you.
Yes.
Let me ask you something. Let's say we put in 200 luxury condos for $1 million apiece out here in the back. Is there enough water now to handle that?
Yeah, we've got how many ERCs remaining?
Well, it's not the ERCs, I mean the actual water, enough water.
Well, the ERCs.
The plant's running at a very small part of its capacity. So
Okay.
yes, we could make water.
Yeah.
Okay.
And your wells would supply it. There's no issue there.
Just getting back to the pipe. You said you had a crane on it?
Well, down the
road.
The crane down the
For
road.
the pumps,
And we haven't had any, so what's going to disturb the pipe to cause a problem?
It's just old and brittle. It's like concrete. And if you were to have a piece of it laying right here on the ground, there's a good chance that if you stood on it and jumped up and down, it would bust it. It's just brittle. But as long as it's in the ground and it's got that curtain all the way around it, compressed and equally, it seems to hold up pretty well. So in the 6 years that I've been working for you, we've only had 1 break with the asbestos pipe, and that was across the road.
Asbestos concrete pipe. I think.
Yeah, asbestos concrete. That was across the road, right at the entryway to Newport. That one was probably 3.5 foot deep.
Yeah, that was
This one you went down already 3 feet and had drowned it.
I didn't see it, so it may have been 6 inches below that. I don't know.
Yeah, so it's something that could be deferred. And go ahead, Mitch, tell us your top 4.
Oh, my top 4, number 1 is that fire.
without a doubt.
Canal station, that's number 1.
Was that number 2 on the list?
Yes.
Yeah,
Number 2 to me, but it's only because of me.
I meant on your list.
on this list, it's number 2.
Yes, it would be number 2.
That's your first.
I'm just trying to.
And what's your second?
So Mitch, you're saying new pumps, new generator, but a fire panel.
Not pumps, the pumps are okay.
Oh, okay.
New generator and new control panel.
How much is that? It's a 125K generator?
Yeah, I think so.
So how much would those two items?
About 350,000.
We were guessing about
Yeah, it's on the list.
We were estimating about 350,000.
Okay.
What was your second one?
Is a filter at the wastewater plant.
Do you know what number that one is?
He's taking the last page.
Yeah,
17,
Well, it'd be 17 and 18.
okay.
All right, what's your third one?
Valves throughout the community. There are valves out throughout the community. There are so many failed valves that when and if there's an issue, you have to shut down half of the community or all of the community to fix a repair. For example, at the end of Case Drive or at the end of New.
You can't isolate it.
You cannot isolate.
Right.
And what we did with that water valve replacement, both for the water system and the irrigation fire, is we, in our plan, we broke it into several different phases. That you wouldn't
Yeah,
do
2
all in 1
phases,
year,
I
you
think,
might do it in a couple,
Right.
3 years.
Yeah.
So where are your valves?
Number 10 to 25, I think.
10?
Yeah,
10.
25. What's your fourth one? How many did you have anyway?
And then on number 12 also, I'm sorry. Number 12,
That's part of it?
that's the fire irrigation system.
Is that part of number 1 that you would have said?
No, that would be number 3.
Oh, number 3, it's another valve.
Yeah, actually, those valves would be number 4. Number 3 would be the 2 lift stations that need to be
Okay,
repaired.
fire irrigation, water first and then fire irrigation number 5.
But I have to say that that's this line, it's out of sight, out of mind. I've never had an issue with it. All these other things that we just spoke about, all of them I've had problems with.
Yeah.
So it's easy for me to put that low on my list because I've never had the issue. That doesn't mean it won't go bad, but I don't know.
It was nice.
It's been there how many years?
As old as you are.
I mean, it's all right. Lincoln was president.
Right after Noah
And again, I don't know offhand what your utility reserves are. Some of these things like the AC pipe and so forth, if we do have a break, we do have some reserves that you could utilize to do.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I know, just know the word
What's a reserve?
scares everybody, and it's, that's what gets everybody going on that, but if it's undisturbed and it's been there for 50 years,
Out of sight, out of mind, it's dangerous.
we could all call.
Okay, all right.
George, wants to go to the board.
So what are we gonna do about that?
Oh, yeah.
We could all.
How are we gonna prioritize this?
Well, help me a little bit as far as what you think you may want to spend a year. And with the assessments and so forth, the annual assessments,
Yeah.
what do you think would range?
We, I know we're doing the new water meters. We're working on the 2022 budget. I think it's really too late to get into that. If we do have any kind of profit, we go into reserves. But this is the main reason for this, is we have to financially plan. And a lot has to do with the sale of the 50 acres to help us budget these capital improvements. That was our intent.
At one time, we just finished paying off the water bonds. So you know what that was costing per year.
Mhm.
Do you want to? I know we talked about, I know we're talking about doing this not this year, but in future years, do you want to be at that same level that you were paying the water bonds? Or do you want to be somewhere between this, what you're going to be assessing next year and that number?
Well,
That kind of gives you a range to
are
work
we
with.
talking about a number? I don't want anybody to think I want to go back into that financial position. Because that financial position came from the collection of additional assessments. And we're giving back some of those assessments because that's why they were collected. What I foresee happening is selling the property and allocating those funds with, as the years go on, adding to those reserves. Not planning on, anything, because we really have nothing else to do except the CIP. And hopefully no catastrophes.
Okay, but we don't have anything planned for next year yet. So what was our?
I think we have a small amount allocated, because we allocated for the meters this year.
Yeah.
So that was part of the CIP plan.
If I remember, there was something put in this year's budget, I think, for some of that.
Probably in the order, in general.
Yeah,
Well, but it won't be just one.
No, most of the CIP is in order, but the here, capital expenditures, this is now here. Budget for 2021, the new year, and then 2021.
Yeah, gross budget's 20 grand.
It's here 2022, right? That's right.
I thought that was.
2022, so he only has 20,000.
20,000.
Yeah.
Well, our payment was 500,
Yeah, right around 500.
and then you,
We'll give it back about 220.
all right, so why wouldn't it be, why don't we at least do 200 or 200?
What you have to do is compare the 21 to the 22 and see who's getting more and who's getting less. It's a picture of the whole thing, which I've done.
All right, but we gotta come up with something for him for 2022. We
No,
got,
I agree with what you're saying, Bert. You know,
we got the 200.
if we got 200, that we can, then let's prioritize that 200 and come up with, let's do this, or start this, that, then, you know.
Because,
It doesn't do any good to
Well,
leave it on the
first-
shelf sitting there
Right.
unless
Yeah.
you're gonna do something.
Yeah, but first make sure that 200 we have is not going to be used to keep us afloat.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
But we need, first we need to know how much,
You have to know
what's in the
if
bank,
you have
how much is in the bank and how much is coming in this year.
Right.
If we've got that, then we can say, okay, let's go with 200 or 300 or
All right,
100
but
or
we're
whatever.
projecting, I don't know, do we want to wait for the discussion on the 2022 budget?
Maybe that's where we need to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah. But,
That's fine.
you know, and what I'll do is I'll follow up more with Mitch. We can sit down and try to prioritize some things in his mind too, that we can nail that
Yeah,
down.
just so we can get a feel, on budget.
okay,
Which
because
we
And
actually
some
want
of these
to-
projects we can do multi-year things like the valves, but things like the canal pump station, that's gonna be a one-shot deal.
Yes.
And that was 350,000. About.
I think in that, and if you guys would like, I'll be glad to give a hard right.
No,
So you have
I
some.
think you're right. It's a big number.
And it's right now,
This is just
I
starting
hate to
number.
say this, now's a terrible time to going out for bid on
Yeah,
anything
everything
right
is
now,
high.
because everything's crazy high.
I just, okay, that's fine, I just want us to do something, but I don't want us to do anything that's assuming we're gonna sell that property, because
That's right.
we've got that done well.
We can
So
definitely
we-
take
That
up the
changes your whole financial position.
Right.
Number 3 is right off the bat. We'll do that.
Take that fine right in there. Well, we didn't want to do this. That was what, 122,000? No, well, because we already did.
Yeah, we just got.
Oh, yeah, it's gotta be. Another fire.
And Mitch, if you would, when you prioritize, give us a table number 7, say, Mitch's priority, this is what we think we need to do.
Yeah, we're gonna go by Mitch's priorities.
And we'll work that out, and we'll go ahead and establish more of that, refine that 1 to 5 year plan and so forth.
Well, that's fine.
But the water treatment plant is the most important part of the whole thing for the whole community.
Right.
That's our part.
Yes.
That's why we're.
Right.
You were talking about the disc scrubber as the filter, is that what you're?
Oh, that's my number 2, yeah.
The disc scrubber,
Yeah, disc filter, yeah.
disc filter.
That's for the wastewater plant.
Right, but that's a biggie.
It's number 17 and 18.
Well,
Yeah, a few 100,000 as well.
yeah, Mitch and I are actually
Yeah, they'll come back.
exploring some things that there might be a disc filter that's gonna go out of use shortly at another treatment facility, that if it fits the
Oh, you
need,
get the-
we've worked, then we might pursue that.
Yeah, so if something like that comes up, that's what we need. A big source.
In last checking, it sounds like it's gonna be available in about 2 years, maybe.
I remember you talking.
I mean, miles are.
It's got a few miles. It's-
Do we really want that?
It depends on the price. If you can get it really cheap, then yes, it would be
Yeah.
fine.
We're not.
But, you know, you don't get a warranty or anything.
We need to evaluate it. That's, key, is we need to evaluate it as it comes available, see if it's really something.
Yeah, I agree. Let's move on.
Hey, on another note, the two gentlemen just left, but I had my guys go locate that sewer line. It is right where they want to put their trees.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Did you tell us?
No, they left. I just got a text from my guy, said, hey, it's between the sidewalk.
Oh. I was basing it based upon plans that showed it right.
Well,
in
the
there.
problem that
It's
is
running
to be on his side.
right under the edge of the sidewalk.
So he could put it on his side of the sidewalk, no problem, right?
Yep, you put it on his side. No issue.
Yeah, well, if he wants it, it's a different.
Oh, then that's okay.
Yeah, okay, so we need to contact him.
Stuff these
Yeah.
This will be a happy day for him.
Yeah.
Private than you are.
Yeah.
Okay, where are
They
we
get the
at?
one of myself.
Well,
Ask his-
If I can interrupt for just a second. There's, Frank Lee's been on the line, and he's in the hospital, and he wanted to comment on the Stella Maris issue. And I wonder if the board is willing to hear him now, even though it's not audience comments.
okay, where are we?
You're saying he's on the phone now?
Yes, he is. I'm trying to unmute him. I don't know if,
He was in the hospital.
He's still in.
yeah, he's still in the hospital right now, and he's been trying to speak. Frank, can you speak? Can you unmute yourself? Yeah, I guess he can't. He's been chatting, saying that he wanted to speak, but I guess he can't unmute himself.
Guy, when he comes back on and, interrupt him, we'll
Which
see if
hospital
we
is he
can
in?
listen to him.
Okay.
He's out of town.
So we're on the monthly financial report.
Yeah, nine.
We're on number 9, district manager report. Yep. So you have the financial that came out yesterday. I will take any notes back to answer any questions that you might have on that.
I only have one.
Yeah.
We've been given the audited report, and usually with the audited report, if there's any adjusting entries in the past, or usually in accounting, you'll put it to the first month of this current year, which would be October. That hasn't been done, so I guess my question is if he has some adjusting entries, can you send me a copy of it? So I can know that those numbers are gonna change and why.
From audit.
Yeah, because we've always discussed backdate, but adjusting entries end of year, we backdate.
All right.
And other than that, unless there's other discussion, I can put a motion forward to accept the financial statement as presented.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Was that quick?
I got a question for district managers. I don't report. It's about the transcription of everything we do here. Because you guys are in charge of that, correct?
So there's reporting on here,
Right.
on the go-to meetings. And then we set this one as a little backup. And then we use Cal's notes. And then we have someone who does the minutes in the office.
Right, that's the summary that we get?
Cal writes the summary to the board. And then the official minutes are done by someone in the office listening to the audio. And then Cal proofs the
Okay, but that's,
before they become the draft minutes.
so everything we talk about specifically is exactly in minutes someplace? It's like a recorded?
I think I know where you're going. You want a verbatim of our meeting, and I believe
Yeah,
the
for example, like the interaction that we just had with Orchid Cove.
discussion.
Yeah,
There's an audio recording.
and how long do we keep something like that? And how?
Chris, I don't know that we've gotten rid of any audio recordings.
No, the audio recordings at this point, we keep indefinitely. The video is stored and easy to share for 1 year from the date of the meeting.
Okay, so the audio recording, we keep everything, okay, so it's, all right.
Statutorily, we only have to keep them for like 10 years, but
Right.
at this point, I think we're keeping them indefinitely.
But right now, you're getting it from this.
That's why this is, yes. So Chris hit record beginning of,
Prior to us using this site.
prior to.
It was a handheld digital recorder.
Handheld digital, right, that's right.
And we were having issues there.
Not really.
Well, we ran out of batteries. one time.
Right, last meeting we didn't have.
Well, we have this internet connection.
Exactly, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
It's okay, right? But we are keeping.
But we are keeping.
Okay.
But as far as written minutes, I believe it's summary, and it's not so much the discussions as much as the
It's
vote.
a recap
And
of,
Right.
Yeah.
of the conversation. So it's the draft summary minutes that you see that are presented.
Okay.
As the official meeting minutes.
All right.
Does that answer?
Yeah.
These gentlemen just came back in.
Give them the bed.
Well, I'm trying to mention.
Sure.
Yeah.
He votes.
Yeah. Gilbert had the sanitary
We have-
sewer located, the force main out there, and he finds that it's right on the front edge of the sidewalk, so
Towards the street.
towards the street. So it's gonna be difficult to put those royal palms in the sidewalk and the street.
You have to put them on.
But if you want to put them back behind the sidewalk on your side of the property, that would be fine.
He just explained it to us. and he
Okay.
said- What he did say was the sewer line was right on the edge of the sidewalk, like underneath the sidewalk, but on the front edge.
It's on the front edge, yes.
It's not in that cavity where the palms go, but it's on the underside.
How wide?
On the
Yeah,
other
but
side.
you've seen the root system of Royal, right? In the ground when it's in there. I mean, the root system in my Royals covers my whole front yard.
Yeah.
The root system is unbelievable. It's just spaghetti everywhere. So if it could get into that drain, I guess it could get into the drain from the other side too, but.
Okay, so what if I put in a thinner palm, just 3 thin palms? I have set up those oils.
Well,
Smaller palms won't get nearly as thin.
Just going to interrupt so that you know that Franklin is on the line. Correct? Isn't that what you're trying to say, Chris? The one-
Yes, frankly, it's unmuted now.
Let's finish this here.
Well, in my mind, the only other issue is that clear zone requirement. And when you start planting things in the clear zone, again, there's the liability associated with that problem.
Yeah,
But
and
is it-
that gets back to the issue, if it's not MUTCD compliant, that creates liability, that's the main traffic.
Yeah. But what about, my neighbor on the last Benton coming to the highway, hit one of our trees on the median there. And it's not recessed in any way.
Yeah, they're evolving standards, so it's hard to say what particular tree was planted at what particular time on road design.
Yes.
Good example is, and we want to get out to next to Gateway Boulevard, Gateway, there are oak trees all down the median. There's no curb, there's no valley gutter to that median. That was fine back in 1985, 1986.
Yeah.
Nowadays, the county says, yeah, have a tight curb or get rid of the oak trees.
Yes.
I mean, so
It's hard to break
evolving
past
standards.
sins or
Yeah.
the things that are now sins. That weren't back then.
But I know what you're saying. It is dangerous if you hit it. Oh,
So I don't think it's gonna change. I think aesthetically, you'll have to.
Put them in on your property.
Yeah,
You keep it on your property.
Because I see his point, but it's not his property, it's still gonna have roots.
yeah.
Either way, it's by the sidewalk.
But we can't, I don't think we can stop him putting them in.
Right, it's a liability, we have to protect the association. District. Mr. Lee.
Frankly.
Frankly.
So Mr. Lee?
Hello, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I appreciate this opportunity. First of all, I wanted to clarify something. We appreciate the CID very much. I want you to know we have thanked you previously for the wonderful landscaping you did on Case Drive. The water plant, we think it increases our property values. I told you that 2 years ago. And this week we had a situation come up and your manager was on vacation. And we sent out a call for help. And from vacation, your manager responded within an hour and was marshaling people to come to our assistance. So you don't get better customer service than that. And I think it's important to acknowledge those things and say we value and appreciate CID. And that's not a matter of opinion, that's a matter of history. We thank you. As for this current issue, I don't know how else to say this other than we have a different perspective on the information you've been given. Mr. Smith is not a member of the board. Mr. Smith did not take the matter to his own building board. He did not take it to his board representative or his building president. He refused to allow the building board to meet. He did not request a bridge. He has requested, the request I received in writing was for 8 private individual bridges to run from each lower unit down to the seawall. In terms of the historical perspective, and I applaud the comment that was made earlier about we need to engineer and do things to meet modern needs, not from a situation 30 years ago that was never built. I want you to know that there was a contiguous row of hedges to block access that way, and people would walk short distances to go around. Those were removed at night by some unit owners. And I asked them, why do you have to remove hedges at night? Is that a horticultural thing? I want you to know that not only did we request 8 bridges and then it came up to be 12, there was an offer of a bridge to be constructed right by that unit at no cost to that unit. And that offer was withdrawn by the contractor after he tried to work with some of these individuals that have come to you. And he said, I'm sorry, they want things that I can't do. Your engineer, as I understand, did a good job, and we appreciate all input. He was not given by Mr. Smith an opportunity to meet with our engineer, any elected representative of our board. If you'll allow me to use just a corny analogy, if I took an engineer and went to your water plant and had him walk through there and didn't tell you about it, didn't talk to your people, and then I came to your meeting and said, your water plant is unsafe and you're not meeting the needs of your people, you would probably not concur with that assessment. And that's basically what Mr. Smith has done. We thank your engineer for his input. I did note today, he said that the thing had been constructed properly. In terms of the road, I am not personally up to date on that, but to my knowledge, the CID has said they would help pave the road, and they would pave the road. We appreciate that. I don't know of any connection between what Mr. Smith brought up to you and that road. They're 2 separate issues. And I want to be clear, we thank you. There's no controversy here. And if there is a concern, we want to talk with you cooperatively to see what we can do. So, and I appreciate, Mr. Jensen is a very smart fellow, and I loved his characterization of the war over there. Well, let me tell you about the war. We have 84 unit owners. We have 5 unit owners that have been voted out of office 3 times that continually object to everything. And I mean everything. We have had the board pass motions saying, will these people please stop talking to our contractors and causing work stoppages? We have had, I can't tell you how far we've bent over backwards to cooperate with these people. I made a proposal to them. They said they would pay for the bridges. So I went to the contractor and got a proposal to build 2 bridges at a dramatically reduced price, these bridges being designed by an engineer and put in by a contractor. And they said they would pay for them. They said, no, we don't. We want 4 bridges. And so what we've got here is 4, maybe 5 people. We recognize their right to be a minority. They take 50% of the time in most of our board meetings. I'm sorry. They take 50% of the time in most of our board meetings, and we try to be professional and patient. Now, that's not opinion, that's fact. So I just wanted to clarify, there is no problem between our organization and yours. We appreciate you. We thank you. I'm on a conference call. If you could just set that down. I'm sorry, the hospital's calling. I got to get off here. But anyway, we appreciate the relationship. We value the relationship. And I would ask that you not let a couple of people that came to you without authorization, who would not go to their own building board, to come and tell you things that are factually inaccurate. That system is safe, it is proper, it's inspected and licensed by the state, by the county, and we paid a whole lot of money for good contractors and engineers. We did it the right way. So I just wanted to say thank you. That's all I have to say. I'll
Frank,
be happy to answer questions.
Chair, I have a question, just for the record. What is your position with the board there, so we know exactly? Are you on the master board, but?
I'm the president of the master board, and I have learned that serving on such is a contact sport. Yes.
Yes, it is, Frank. Thank you. I just need that for the record, Frank.
Thank you, and get well.
Take care.
Thank you so much. I appreciate this.
So the next thing that I had here was email was sent to Cal that he asked me to read and ask if you have any objections to sending a letter. So this note came to Cal from Joe Levy. The house we are building at 199 Case Drive in Port of the Island is installing a built-in pool without a cage, so a fence is required by law. They are requesting written approval from the CID that fence is permitted. Please see correspondence below. And the correspondence below started with note from Collier County government saying that for our county attorney office, please provide a letter of no objection to encroach the drainage easement from the interest holder Port of the Islands Community Improvement District. So.
Wait a minute, you went from.
Well, I'm reading it, sorry.
Encroachment.
That's what
That's where the fence would go. I haven't seen the documents yet, but it sounds like with a blue of a pool cage, you gotta put a certain size fence up.
Yeah, it could be pool. No pool cage and fence.
Yeah, he has no pool cage.
And in order to do that, they have to go into the drainage easement at the back of that and go into the drainage easement. This is 199.
Yes, 199 Case Drive.
They did the free enclosure, so they wouldn't have encroachment, right?
Doesn't make any sense.
I've seen this before in other communities where, again, if you want, state regulations require that if you're not have screen enclosure on your pool, you have to fence it with
Yes.
roof access. And at times they're required to go into lakes or enclose the yard, or usually encroaches in the easement. So I've seen this happen in many other communities.
So they're trying to close the yard, not just the pool.
Probably. We don't have a drawing. We're not, and at this point, if boards
So
are
the answer is we need to have a drawing and.
Yes,
absolutely. What I would suggest is, my other districts, I would always recommend you get a survey with the dimensions and a description of the materials utilized. And I have a form, it's called a non-disturbance and encroachment agreement, that says basically, we're the district, we have an easement, you're the property owner, subject to the easement, you want to put a fence in, you can put the fence in, but if we ever have to come through there to fix the drainage or access a lake or a pond, you have to take it down, or if you don't take it down, we take it down, you won't charge us. That's the nutshell. I have that.
And is this address waterfront, 199, is that
Yes.
waterfront?
Yes. I think that's on the west side of Case West.
Yeah, so part of it is your own part of the land.
The county has become more proactive in the past. I had a district where the county approved permits allowing the fence to go into the water, which meant our lake maintenance guys couldn't even get it around the lake, the pond. And so county's got, they've gotten better. Last year, generators in side yards, so they've gotten much better.
They told me I was off 1 inch, like, okay, 1 inch.
Tell them it was a hot day to take it.
That's what I found out the other part.
But I would suggest that if the board approves, I have a full standard form agreement. So we'll wait till next week.
So we need to see it.
Okay. If you can send me that, whenever you get the drawings, the legal description, then we put the data in the draft.
Perfect.
And that gets recorded in public records too.
Okay.
Good.
And then the only other thing was the hard copy of the audit printouts. And if there are any questions I can take those down and send them to Cal, but there were no discrepancies noted. It was a good clean audit.
It was.
The letter to the board starts on page 32 of that.
You all enjoyed reading it, didn't you?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, we're glad you do. We're glad you do.
I propose a motion to set the annual audit 2020.
Second it.
And all good.
Fred.
That takes us to the field report. Overall, he says, from Chris, he says the lake maintenance retention ponds remain in fair condition for the month. Littoral plants, now that it's rainy season, he expects that the canal will look better. Moving on to the next page, there's a small depression observed halfway down the dirt road on Union Road. They'll monitor that to see if it turns into.
Didn't we just do that? Yeah, that was what we just re-gravelled and so forth. It's right.
It's gravel.
It's ground.
Yeah, so
This doesn't matter.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, because if they just did it, why don't we have them come back and fix it?
I'll take a look at that after the meeting. See if I notice anything out there.
I drove by it yesterday, just around the bend, you go to the right, go to the gun club. It's a lot of loose black gravel.
Okay.
I think that's a bit of a.
Maybe there was some old asphalt up towards
That's
the club that got pulled back.
Regarding the no fishing signs from the bridge, he did send an update saying he heard back from Florida Department of Transportation, and Collier County is responsible for the signage, and they will be installing the signs for the no fishing.
You had better luck than me. I was banging my head.
He said that a resident reached out asking if they would cut up and remove the telephone pole on Union Road. He informed the resident he would take care of that. There are a couple of areas where, excuse me, the roadway lighting is starting to be covered by trees, so I'll make a note of that from Robert. He also makes a comment about the streetlight poles on Peacock Lane, heavily covered with mold and algae, need to be pressure washed, and so I'm not that. CDD, and if that's the case, he'll take care of that. Already touched base on building construction with David's report earlier. Although I don't know that, did you mention the gutters, the roadway gutter on 190 Sunset K, heavily filled with silt?
Yeah, and on that one, the roadway gutter, he's full of it. Well, he's full of the dirt because the house being built next to him, he's in that residence now. But it's their stuff flowing down now that the rain has started.
Okay.
But even as far as the swale, he's full into the swale. How's that going to impact the neighbors with the rain coming?
He's gonna have to get some grass established there, some sod thrown or something, so to minimize washouts and so forth. There'll probably be some with heavy rains. It's something that needs to be maintained until that road gets established.
Yeah, they usually don't put grass in until they're done.
Yeah.
Spark, tiles on it, yeah.
That's at 176.
It's all coming from 174.
174.
Yeah.
There's a possibility we could ask them for some silt fence in.
Yeah, there's no place for water to go right now.
I noticed he had some topsoil, so he must be getting close to one of them. We had some sod delivered, so let me check this.
Yeah.
You don't bring topsoil.
Well, the front hasn't put a driveway in yet, so I know that is flowing.
What they do with it?
The tiles are open.
Oh, okay.
And then one other question, on page 38, we have the electric panel, and it says it's been replaced, whatever, but it just needs to be painted, something like that. Who does, like, if we go to take care of something like that, why don't we paint it over there? Is it like another group
I
of
think
people?
that, I don't know, but I'll ask Chris,
Yeah.
but
What are you
I
talking
know
about?
contracts have with the whole,
Page 38, this painting there,
Yeah.
what problem?
Someone pressure washed it, and they suggest we have it painted.
No, it's been replaced.
So it's two
It's
different
a- it's a
painting, I
brand
think
new
he's talking
kind of-
about the,
So that was like a subcontract.
wall.
On the panels themselves, the ones that are pre-finished, fiberglass and so forth, if there's a way that you can hide it, so much the better, because once you start painting them, you're gonna paint them every couple of
I was
years.
gonna say, they just rolled right off.
No, it's the monument walls.
Monument walls.
Yeah, they can
Right.
pressure wash. The board may want to paint them.
What thought you could have
No,
No,
that's where my note is.
okay, there you go.
Why do we have
So,
Does it need painting or is it?
yeah, they're saying it needs painting, but why, if you pressure wash it, why aren't we prepared to paint it? Do we have different people go out and do things, or?
If the paint's gonna peel, we're saying every 2 years you're gonna paint.
No,
Especially
no,
this-
no, no.
The board may want to paint them to match the monument.
I was talking about the
I think that
alcohol
Chris was just
Yeah, we were
asking.
talking, we were on two different.
Less
Yeah, we're talking about the panels that still want to typically get those pre-finished.
Because he's talking about the wall. And I think he's just asking for your blessing on painting.
No.
I will clarify with him on that.
Do we get a price then, repainting that wall, is what you're saying here, right?
Well, do we do it, or we sub it out? That's my question.
He would do that, and it would be very expensive.
Yeah.
Sometimes he just goes. I mean, that's.
Yeah, go ahead. Okay,
Yeah.
there should be a
I
certain-
agree. They should have just done it
Yeah.
right to the press.
Save the travel time.
And you're there, yeah. And just before that, he does mention some new growth of Brazilian pepper that they are going to address. That's in the regret, that's on the page 37, just before.
That brings up one thing on solar, I meant to ask, and I didn't. My neighbor mentioned to me that the trees were trimmed, and I know if you didn't have clearance on the road, that we had notified the homeowners that they needed to be trimmed, which you needed clearance. Well, they claim they weren't notified that someone trimmed the trees, and they might lose one. And I couldn't say anything, because I didn't know we were doing that. As far as I knew, we were notifying the owners.
We notified all of them.
Yes, so did I. So I just want to give you a heads up.
What is your neighbor's address?
191 Sunset. Two palms right over there.
So his other update is in there. They did the electric box at Union entrance on page 39. They did that yesterday.
That was it.
So he does say on his drive, landscape lights for your update, new timer for the landscape lights has been installed. They're trying to locate a similar style light fixture before sending over a replacement estimate as soon as he has it. Send it. Already gave them one on the fishing signs, and then the head wall, there is two proposals in your packet, one from MRI for 4850 and one from Canadaris Builders, contractors for 3595. I did, and the picture included is that area. I did ask Chris when I saw him earlier this week, if he thought one contractor, he recommended one over the other. He said it was really your choice to make.
So it seems like the big difference is equipment. One says he has to bring in two pieces of equipment. The other one says he's gonna have one plus a jackhammer. I guess it's called. I think that's the main reason for the difference in pricing. But I don't care what it is.
Let's get it right.
So then we need to have a motion to
I have a
forward
motion to
for one or the other.
accept Connie Garris, is it, builders proposal. $395.
Second.
And all in favor? Back on the report, on the mosquito spraying, the last one says May 31st, and so we haven't done any in June. It's terrible.
Yeah,
Mosquitoes
Yeah, for the rain. That was pretty good.
My wife complained today, she.
Oh, it's terrible. It's really bad. Yeah.
Because yours could circle twice, actually. But that's great. Yeah, the bad sign.
This doesn't have any, I mean, he sends this to us.
No, it's been
This is only-
3 times a week.
Okay, good.
She get it.
Oh, good. I'm
Good
glad.
you like
I'm glad. You listen to her.
We're glad she did.
I called him immediately to ask him. I said, did you, because I didn't hear him spray Wednesday. I said, were you there? He said, yes. I said, but your mother said she got bit today.
Oh, I like that.
Exactly. Something will get done now.
That's right. So that takes us up to attorneys.
Good morning.
Good afternoon.
No, I had to double check on that. I did that. The cutback lawsuit status, this is, we have the document that was proposed settlement, very short and sweet. So I'm requesting a closed door session under the provisions of section 286.011, subsection 8 of the Florida statutes, advising you that I desire advice concerning the litigation. In the subject matter of the closed door session will be confined to settlement negotiations or strategy sessions related to litigation expenditures. I'm requesting that for the July 9th, 2020 meeting. Would you want to have meetings set up for noon or 11:30, maybe 11:30 or soon thereafter? We can do it that way. Is that fine?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would suggest 11:30.
That way the meeting will end.
I'm sorry?
That way the meeting will end.
And then I'll arrange for the court reporter. It'll be the board, myself, the court reporter, and Cal as chief administrative officer. And so, thank you.
So they submitted
Yeah, I'm going to have the discussion.
Yeah.
The closed door session. So, with the board's approval, I will.
Do we need a motion on that?
Yeah, I just said the board will approve that request and schedule the closed door session for July 9th at 11:30.
So I make a motion on the table for that.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I have some additional matter if we get down to old business, but it's sort of.
We're kind of over there. So obviously.
Speeding right along.
Yeah, what I would request on the item 12A little I is if Zeman has withdrawn their LOI, I would suggest just to create a trail also to say, we acknowledge receipt of your withdrawal and determination of the LOI.
Absolutely.
If the board can authorize, Cal and I accept that.
That opens us up.
Yeah, then we can close that door.
I make a motion
Yeah, to close
to
that.
close that.
I'll authorize that.
Yeah.
That would sell the withdrawal.
Did they say why or anything?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Impact fees and ongoing
And then
sewage and.
Utility costs.
Utility
Fees and ongoing utility costs.
The real reason was, we tightened up on him. He found, they researched the contract, the purchase and sale. It was completely lopsided. They
Everything was
changed the
in his
language.
favor, nothing in our favor.
Yeah, they changed the language. They just called it an RV park, which could be double wide trailers. They changed a lot of things at the end, so we gave them an ultimatum. But I have a question. And one of the things that they said was the impact fees. I don't even know what the impact fees are. We haven't given them to them yet.
No, those come from the
They're using County Road.
The county is an online calculator.
Oh,
And
okay.
the online calculator says you can calculate all these, and for water and sewer, go to your jurisdictions.
Okay, so they don't need that from us. They get that from the county. Okay.
Did they give you the 50, I mean, one of the things you said about they gave you $50,000 $30,000 as a binder, did they?
They got a backfill, everything was
But
in
they
there.
had-
Yeah,
We
it
never-
was in their favor.
We never received the money.
We never got the money.
Oh, no, that's-
That's, because I thought that's
Check's
how.
still in the mail.
Vacation.
Yeah, good job. So we had a motion and second.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hey, pardon me, so that, they were anticipating putting an RV park on that property?
Yeah.
And you guys essentially said no to an RV park?
No. No.
So you
Yeah,
guys-
position.
You guys would allow somebody
Like,
else?
if I asked you what an RV is, what would your definition be?
Well, I mean, right, I mean, it could just be a bunch of concrete slabs that people bring, those driving RVs, or it could be those double.
Right, so we just
Right.
try to clarify the definition of RV.
But either are allowed, somebody could do that.
Oh, yeah, it's zoning, zoning allows it.
No, somebody couldn't do that, because we wouldn't allow, our objective was a high-end, Class A only, or.
55 and over.
Yeah, not travel trailers, that kind of thing, some fifth wheels. Enough scale
Only a
RV park.
6-month duration.
Yeah.
Right. They made a lot of promises.
Okay, well, sounds like we're on the same page.
So now, the next steps in that. So there were 2 other offers that Cal had mentioned previously, and he reached out to both of them. One, which was from a Captain Don Jones. He withdrew his offer that his client was no longer interested. Brian Jones, that client is still interested. And so there is that, but then there's also the next steps on the sale of the property. And the board had previously agreed that they wanted to get an appraisal and engage with a commercial real estate agent. Yes. And so Mr. Perez reached out to.
What I would suggest the board wants to just, maybe just table the vacant land contract. Consideration of that, to be brought up at a later date.
Yeah.
So the board's not saying yes or no, but I think just.
Right.
Yeah, I think that would be an appropriate action.
Okay.
That would be-
And I think I read there, we had so much time, and I think the time runs out October.
Say 6 months.
Yeah, 6 months, and then it was signed in April. 6 and 4 is 10.
Yeah, I think that was your due diligence. I think the offer period was shorter than that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's part of it.
Yeah.
But I would suggest maybe just tabling this
Yes.
board motion.
I make a motion to table the contract from Brian Jones.
I'll second it. Now, I'd like to make a comment. I don't know about the rest of you, but I felt this incredible pressure getting plowed through this whole thing, and I didn't like it. My one little vote, I didn't like it. It's not how I do business, not how I want to do business. I'm only one vote. I get it.
I didn't feel we were plowed. I felt we were plowed with 5 acres. There
Now,
was a
I think
complete difference there.
the first time that Zeman wanted an answer was January 6th. And we got, if you look back, we got the letter on January 1st or 2nd. But anyway, I'd like to do a survey on next door and find out what residents feel about developing that land or not.
No, we've been over this.
Let's get over it again.
I don't want a dog park, I don't want a park, and this was all done and discussed, we had meetings on it, and I feel if you want to do that, fine, but have them contact the CID with their input. That's what happened last
I
time.
think we put it on next door
That's not,
and do a survey. It's free.
no. You do that a lot. You call for surveys from the audience. And I feel when I come here, I talk to a lot of people and they talk to me. And I get their feedback because I represent them. I don't wait and ask in a group what they want because.
Terry, we all do, but it's not up to you. It's up to all of
One
us.
person of 5.
Okay,
Five
but
of us.
you don't want it. I do want it.
All right, that's-
I want everybody to have input because you know what? Everything we
They
heard.
always have input, always.
They don't.
They could contact the CID at any time.
Come here,
I think
meetings and talk to us.
I think there's too much gets interpreted next door, emails and stuff, where it's not true context.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't think, that's why when we were trying to rush through that other thing, because it seemed like we had a deadline on that 5-acre property.
Yeah.
I was going through, so, I had that impromptu event over there. It didn't take long to get, 50 people to show up.
Yeah.
And, and their primary concern wasn't what we were doing so much as how fast we were trying to do it without it. So if you want to put something up next door, get them to come here and give them time and we'll talk about it then.
The problem is most people have gone there.
Yeah, the next door is
Just
really,
asking a survey question on the next door, that's not a bad idea.
well, if you get a yes or no,
Yeah.
okay, but just don't do any.
Yeah.
No, yes or no?
Yes, just,
Don't ask for input, just yes
Right,
or
just
no.
Yeah, just yes or no, but after this last fiasco, how many people told, I don't know about you, how many people told you, wow, that RV park is a great idea? I had nobody, and I had tons of people say, are you crazy?
All right, let's go, a survey according to the residents.
Yeah.
How many homes do we have? Would be a certain total. How many residents do you have in Orchid Cove? So you have to have a balance of how we're voting. Orchid Cove would feel one way, my feedback, mainly because of the road. I on the other side, living on the other side, traffic is traffic to me.
Well, so that's why you put it on next door, you get everybody.
Right, but you can't turn around and say 50 people say this and only 4 say that. It's equivalence.
I understand.
My only concern on Expo, if I deny it, you just get so many people's perception and then other people criticize your perception. One way of doing it, the CID could do their own survey monkey, which is free. And the administrator would be one of the CID people or the property management company. They would just have the person's information, so not everybody is getting everybody's comments, but just that one person. And then you could do a whole summary and present it to the board and to the people. I think going next door, there's just so much back and forth.
Well, the problem is you can notify each condominium association, but there is no homeowners association for the homes.
Right.
Yeah, but.
Reaching
you
them.
have a-
But I don't know how to reach them. I feel.
Right.
Exactly, no, I like that idea, Audrey. I think I'm mistaken, the CID has no access to people's emails.
That's
Right.
No, we have no way.
You have to understand, the CID is not
Right.
in the land business.
And next door doesn't, they do the same thing. Next door will monitor it.
Or what if we say on this one, if you want to participate in the survey, do X, Y, and Z, and then they would go on the
So
survey.
better yet,
He has to,
put it in the mailing that we're sending out with the information for the water from us, with the information.
but when you say information, I look at it one way, from a number standpoint, okay? You look like I've heard Ray say, it's only $200. Well, that's fine. But then you have to look at all the numbers, and I see one picture,
Right.
he sees another picture, and that's the purpose of
Correct.
finding the board.
That's right.
Completely agree with you.
So am I gonna have meetings, or am I gonna give accounting lessons to the neighborhood? How do I do that?
I don't know, but when you do, I'll come.
Yes, no question, what are you asking?
Do you want to develop the back or not?
But like.
So, no, that, to me,
It's
that,
really
that's a no-brainer to me.
Yeah.
That's a no-brainer. Do you want to develop the 50 acres
Or not?
or not?
Right.
Do we want to have a park back there or not? How much did we lose to,
About
Terry?
350,000.
350,000 in
That's
taxes.
sizable.
I don't think there's any discussion in my mind whether I want to develop that. That's a no-brainer. That's a development. We cannot afford to not develop it. This is a small city that requires a certain amount of money coming in here to be able to do everything that we want to do. To turn around and throw away $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year in taxes is stupid.
And not even count the
Well,
water.
what makes you think you are?
Hold on.
Let this guy get.
I was gonna, say something similar, but if you put something on next door, you have to show the whole picture. And you have to say, we're gonna be losing this amount of money roughly.
Oh, absolutely.
In income. You're gonna lose this amount of money, which I don't really know how much the person's gonna pay to buy the property. And then ask, do you want to give all that out?
Oh, you're right.
Plus, you also have to make them aware of the capital improvement plan.
If there's
Oh, I
We
know.
don't have a reserve.
I
We
get it.
need a reserve.
The problem is, I don't disagree with anything anybody's saying, but the problem is, there are just a lot of people who live here, who have their right to their say, and they don't want to see development. And then there's a lot of people, the majority, who don't care and just want to keep the cost down. That's the majority. But during this last thing, people just said, we didn't have a chance, we didn't have a chance. I'm the one that asked for the public meeting.
Yes, but here you had Frank Lee, who could not come to this meeting because he was sick. So he went online. People don't have to be physically here to work the islands.
They can participate, and they
I
don't.
agree. That's right, they don't. That's exactly, they don't.
You can think of horse to water.
But she makes a real good point. If you don't give all the information, you ask them the question.
Yeah.
They don't have all the information. It's a dumb question. They have to know what it's gonna cost them. I do everything based on cost. That's why I had an interaction with them. I have to know what the costs are. And you're only talking minimum 350,000. It's much more than that.
Oh, I know.
Water usage and everything else. So it's
Here's the
probably
deal.
more like $750,000.
As far as I'm concerned, here's the deal. You guys, I'm going to point it out, but you guys are elected. And it's up to us to make the decision for the community with the input that we get from a community. But I'd much rather have the community come here and/or send me an email or whatever. I don't like to listen to what's going on. Sometimes when I look at Nextdoor, it's not only Nextdoor, but it's the Coffee Klatch Gang and the Marina and the whole 9 yards. I listen, and then it's up to me to make a decision, and you guys to make the decision. We're the ones that make the decision of what's best for, sometimes parents have to say no.
So do you feel we've got fair input from the community on this?
I have.
I personally, I think so for my group in Stella Maris, master.
I think she has.
I've always said, I think we should sell, okay? It would behoove the whole community. My problem, and not my problem, my concern, and everyone else that I've spoken to over on Newport, not a lot of people, but the majority of the people I've spoken to said we needed to have it appraised, which is what we're doing now. Because we all talked, and it's like, we just thought, now it might not be worth more than $2 million, but we thought that was.
Yeah, if this deal fell through, we would definitely have it.
Absolutely, and I think that's great.
That's next on the list.
Did we have a motion on the table? So we have a motion and a second, and you need to vote.
What's the motion?
The motion was,
Table consideration.
table consideration on the second offer, that is.
Yes.
So we're ready.
All in favor?
Aye. So then the next, step is
What is the second offer by?
$2,100,000. $100,000.
Do you know what they want to do with it?
What kind of property you bought?
We don't.
We have no idea.
We're tabling.
We're tabling.
Yeah, we're not doing that.
All right, so now it's on to.
I think two parts. Yeah, this is a two-part consideration. Board reached out to two individuals I've known for a long period of time. Just some background, Ray Carroll's family has been here for a long time. You probably know Ray. Pat Carroll, his wife, used to be zoning department in the county when I was there 2 years ago. So both of us from Dyersville was going to Europe. She sounds and looks much younger than I do. Ray's family, like I said, been here a long time. They actually own property in the middle of Wickley Bay. There's still some privately owned property there. Yeah, and Ray has become the foremost expert around the state, apparently, on the FEMA 50% rule issue, but his firm is very familiar with Cuyahoga County. And so I reached out to him for a proposal. You had that proposal from Ray. As far as brokerage, you saw the correspondence from Chip Olson with RE1 Advisors. Chip's been in the community about 25 years, known him a long time. It has been on the board of community development districts in the past. I'm not sure if he's on one now, but he was on Clifford Creek, Hacienda Lakes for a while. He was on the city of Naples, I think the Crab Community Redevelopment Advisory Board. So he's, now he's over in Southwest Florida real estate. So the consideration by the board would be whether or not to engage, I'll say Carol and Carol, pursuant to their proposal, and we'll attach all the necessary and verified public records, all that good fun stuff to support. So it's so inclined to engage them for the $4,000 appraisal fee.
Why do I think 25,000 for an appraisal?
I don't know, but when you guys kept saying there's so much, and I looked it up, and I came and told you, that was between 3,000 and 5,000.
Yeah,
There
that
it
is
was,
after
right
that.
there.
You're right.
So,
So-
but why, and then the other one was
A broker.
a broker, and then they would sell, they would take 5% instead of 6%.
Yes, and he would work, and he'll also work with Ray. So I mentioned to Chip when I talked to him about Ray, I mentioned Chip to Ray, Ray to Chip. So I said, they've known each other for a while.
What we discussed at the end of the last meeting was, did we want to spend money to have it appraised, or have 2 or 3 brokers who are real estate agents for commercial stuff, not appraisers, come in and tell us what they think it's worth, what they can sell it for, and not pay the $3,000 or $4,000.
But the community wanted the appraisal.
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter to me, whatever. You get an appraisal from either one.
Well, and once you get the appraisal from Carol, and then Chip would, work with it, as noted, and so it would help the appraiser understanding the assignment and everything else. So that would be separately, it'd be $450, but then otherwise it's a commission for each transaction of 5%.
Now, there's also something we said, we should talk to 2 or 3 real estate people, not just one. And
How much time are we going to spend?
how much time do we need?
Selling this land?
How much time did we waste on this evening?
2 years ago. I would think, you should be able to.
Yeah.
Get 2 or 3
Get
of them.
them here for the next meeting.
Before the next meeting.
If they want to.
Well, the main
More
real estate.
the assessment.
I say we talk to 2 or 3 brokers and let them bang it out.
You become at least
That's
now.
fine.
Move forward. I'd like to move forward with the appraisal.
He's saying that we'll get an appraisal from 3 different brokers.
Yeah.
But that's another month before you even meet with them. That's my point. And it's always been so topsy-turvy over what is this land worth? I'd like to know.
Well, what's the rush?
I would suggest that a broker would not give you an appraisal, or give you what they believe is a fair market value.
What they can sell it for.
Yeah, what they believe they can sell.
That's all we care
As
about.
opposed to an appraiser will appraise it and compare it based upon whatever analysis they use, whether it's, sales, what the market is.
It doesn't matter to me.
If you want to do both, that's fine. I would like to start with an appraisal of an independent company.
So, but why? I mean, why?
Well,
I was the one who said I wanted the appraisal, but when I'm saying that.
You remember saying that?
Oh, I definitely remember saying that. I've been saying it and get it down. But,
I'm giving it to you now.
And I'm happy for that, except I think I maybe misspoke because I'd rather get it for free from 3 different people. Like if I was gonna sell my house, I would have 3 real estate agents come and give me what they could sell it for. Just because that to me is an appraisal. I mean, that's just fine. I understand that, but all I'm interested in how much I can sell it for. So just for clarification, as Mr. Harris said, that it's 2 different things. The appraisal is not the same as what a broker.
Correct, in my experience, I could be wrong, but my experience, my other partner does more commercial transactions than I mentioned, he said, well, I can't be doing so with him on it. But typically, the brokers will say, we're not gonna tell you what the value is unless you engage us to be your broker.
That's right.
So, I mean, that's typically, so why should we spend the time?
Because I've done
Because we're the ones, we would be the broker listing it for you, and we will need to ascertain what the appropriate listing amount is, so that you don't go chasing, having the property sell out there forever, and then every 10 days you have to change the value.
Plus, I don't think the community's gonna accept 3 different realtors. I think that if it's an appraisal, it's an
All right,
appraisal.
let's get it.
I don't wanna pay $4,000 either.
The
Maybe,
appraisal is
I'd
not
rather
gonna
pay
sell.
450. I mean,
That's getting appraised.
Yeah, let's get it appraised.
That table.
So we can be-
I put
Yeah,
forward a
all
motion
these brokers,
to
let's get it appraised.
have the land appraised first.
By Jerome Carroll.
Right, sure. Maybe
To
that's-
modify the language that I need to add in that.
Mr. Kish.
Yeah, all that.
All in favor?
I'll check the.
And then for the next meeting, we will
Yeah, but at least we have a feeling.
Yes.
present for you.
Yes.
So if you spend the money, I know it's not the appraisal, and the appraisal comes in at 3 now, and your brokers come in and say, we're only gonna do, we can only get you 2.
Yeah, but that's not reality.
But the reality is your broker is probably gonna give you what.
They're the ones that got it.
What is an
And your
appraisal?
appraisal does not give you a market value.
No.
It's market value, don't they? I think we need to know both if we have to.
Okay.
But
I mean, I just.
appraisers are appraisers.
So, but what, my question to you is, okay, if you get that appraisal for 3.
Yeah, let's get it.
Okay, but if you do, okay, and then you go to your brokers and say, we got this appraisal for 3, and they tell you that the market value is 2, what are you gonna do?
You think appraisers don't know market value?
Just for clarification, the scope of work is to provide estimated fair market value right in the appraisal report. So that is a
That's
scope.
what they usually.
They're gonna give you a copy.
Yeah. They should be right in line. They should be.
Right.
Maybe not cross that path when it happens, but right now, I'm making the assumption with a firm like this, who's been here for years.
Yeah, and again,
I just wondered what, you're gonna then, your statement is you're gonna go for the 3.
I'm gonna go for the 3.
3 million. Yeah, but that's.
No, I'm not making that statement. I want an appraisal.
Okay.
I don't care about what could happen. We're just trying to, when we get meetings, they've always said, we want an appraisal, we want an appraisal.
So you appraise, I just wondered.
I think the most, just for clarification, intended use of appraisal in the proposal. Asset management, particularly to assist in setting a marketing price. Interest to be valued for simple type of value, fair market value. And then fair market value. I think it's also important from an asset management because the district has to have an inventory and provide its asset list of assets annually and updated. So this will give it a more realistic valuation.
All right.
Is that correct? You need to have that asset report each year?
And he's right, because right now, that asset is on our books for what we got for it, not what it's appraised for. So-
I'm not arguing against the appraisal.
No, I know,
just
but-
wondered why you want to vote, you gave good reason.
All right, another one person.
Also on financial institutions, when you go buy a property, will only take and.
They want an
ask for
appraisal.
They don't ask for what the realtors think it's worth.
Yeah.
So
Right.
just based on that, I think that tells you that we should.
And the other.
Well, we've already decided.
It's good, bad, or different. Make it
So
So a motion that you ended with.
We already.
we
Thank you.
The next topic was the meeting audio considerations. And so what we did, you all approved the $3,000 for purchase, but that would make the sound better online. So the thought was to make the room smaller because your concern was before we spend any money on PA system, which has not been approved because it wasn't in that $3,000 approval. Does this smaller configuration work?
I think so.
Does it work?
Did you guys, everyone?
Yes.
Okay.
They're listening to me.
How many people are listening?
It's a variety. So right now there's 5, but Chris, I don't know if you had a count earlier, there were several other.
Yeah, we were up to 12 or so people at one point online.
Which is a little bit more, I
Than
think, than we
usual.
normally have, but there's no way here.
Yeah, well, they went home, so hopefully they go on.
The water's finished.
The next topic was the new business, but we've already covered that. That was the, water meter. And so now it's on to supervisor. Supervisor request.
I'll go last.
No, go first.
Mine might be long.
Go ahead.
Well, good. All right, we had that discussion with them, with Bergen Cove, about the fairness of the meters and that. And somebody else here said, well, it was Ray, was talking about the way that we've always done things. It may not be right, it may not be fair. Now we have new information coming on this property back here that, let's see, how long have I been here? 16 years, and we haven't been able to do anything with that property. So evidently we're doing something wrong, something with the process is not right. And I was thinking about it, like for the restaurant. The restaurant, they've been looking to sell on and off continually, right? It's probably because of the overhead. When you think about it, there's, how many people here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If we put a value in this, if we were sitting at a dinner table over at the restaurant, we're charging that table, 8 people, the same ERCs we're charging a condo. No, we're charging more than that because it's 0.2. So what is it, the whole building? So I don't know how these people are supposed to operate financially with the burden we're putting on for these ERCs. So, well, just wait. So I just think that we have to relook at what's fair and equitable at these commercial properties. The guy back here, when he was back here, he never paid, right?
Right, that's why we have the link.
No, the hotel never paid the ERCs on that.
That's why they have it.
Because it was outrageous. No, that was a taxi bill, but he didn't pay the ERCs either. He didn't pay us either.
That's the assessment.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is you're putting such a burden on this property back here to sell it, that that's why they're all going to fall through, unless a developer comes in. If it's an individual land piece for an individual home, and it's one ERC, okay, everybody understands that they can afford that. But everybody thinks that when somebody comes in to develop something like that, they get these deep pockets that go on forever. But if the overhead from the very beginning costs them, what was that going to cost Zeman Brothers if we hit them with the ERCs right off the bat? It was close to $1 million. So it was going to cost them that right from the beginning. That comes right off the bottom line. Who can afford to do that? You can't run a business. Okay? So I just think we have to readdress the ERCs. We did it with the boats. The boats were wrong. I don't care what this, whoever's over there. Yeah, prep that. Those were just wrong. I mean, if you're in a residential setting where you're sitting on a 40-foot boat living off of it, and you're only paying $150 a year, that isn't right. But that's just like fire care. No, those boats over there, they have they pay taxes on the water underneath their boat. So what's their fire assessment? Just on the land. It's not the value of the boat. You know what I mean? So they're paying far less than what we pay. And it's the same type of situation, fair and equitable. And I don't think we're being fair and equitable to ERCs.
Good point.
I have a
Excellent point, in fact.
What, before you answer,
Any idea what the impact fees were that killed the David deal?
No, I don't. Well,
Yeah,
like a regular home, it's out here, it's 36,000.
they wanted like 300 units.
That's really not what killed the
Yeah,
meeting.
but let's not get sidetracked. I want to stay on his point. And my thing is, just relate with Cuyahoga County. They have impact fees.
Right.
When do you get hit with the impact fees? When you build,
Right.
correct? What are we doing? We have ERCs you have to pay before you even wipe your nose. So I think if we could work around and activate those ERCs as the buildings progress, I think that if they need income,
Yeah.
to pay these expenses. As far as the hotel goes, from my past, the hotel's problem is they're too small.
No, you're talking about the dead hotel in the back.
Let's talk about that one. Because they pay ERCs.
On Mount One, you never paid.
But if they're too small, then we're charging too much.
You know, with your point in mind, same thing with phase two, the developer left, he couldn't afford paying the ERC fee.
Right.
Right.
Those taxes are one unit.
Mhm.
County tax is only $165. You know how much your taxes were? You know, part of your ERCs for each unit was at the time $1,300, $1,200. Now it's $1,700. Compare that to the 165. They left.
So yeah, it's not business friendly at all. Something's got to change.
I think.
I like your point.
But you know what the problem is? If you look at it, and he and I have been having these discussions, and he's not wrong.
That's good to know.
The problem is, we're living in a big sinkhole. And the big sinkhole was designed years ago, and a developer came and said, this land over here, 20 ERCs, and it's stuck. This one in the back, however many ERCs, and it's stuck. Where the dormitory is, not enough ERCs, and he never bought more. He was going to, but he never did. So now that may not have enough ERCs for residential usage. And the ERCs, the worst thing is, nobody really knows how many there are. Okay, nobody knows. No one can give you an accurate number. But no.
Yes.
So where's the sinkhole? Let's take his situation.
Excuse me, who is he?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Steve McNamee.
That's Steve McNamee. He bought the 5-acre parcel. I thought everybody knew.
No.
So anyway, he bought this. He wants to put in man caves, which are basically condominiumized places to park plastic cars, RVs, or whatever it's designed for, warehouse space, basically. Okay. He only needs a couple of ERCs,
But he has to pay.
but we're asking him to pay for 20, which is 40 grand a year. Now hold that thought. So he buys the land. We don't get anything out of that. We lose 35 grand a year if we change the status, if we change the situation. And then when we do that, according to my understanding, it changes all of our budget, not just his. It changes the lot to the west. It changes this for sure. And it's all income that this place has been based on. So you know at the end of the day, right, that's exactly right. So you know what happens at the end of the day? Knock, knock, your taxes just went up 1,000 a year. It's because the money's got to come from someplace to run the district.
Can I say one thing quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, I've been researching this a lot, and what I've come up with is you got roughly 1,032 ERCs, roughly. This place was designed to develop and sell that many ERCs a year based on water usages and the other thing. You guys really only have one thing to sell in this place. That's that water treatment plant, your sewer plant. That's where your income comes from.
That's right.
The only way, and like he was saying before, you're using a very small percentage of that. You're losing all this potential because you're saying you guys can't come in because we're going to keep charging you what somebody guessed that 30 years ago that this use is going to be. My thought is, like, you just got to saying the hotel needs to be bigger. Well, they tried to expand it one time before with the high rises and so forth, but guess what? They didn't have enough ERCs, and they couldn't get them unless they wanted to pay a huge amount of money for them. The way I'm looking at it now, as a CID, you already have this property, and you have the ERCs on it. Why will those ERCs have to stay attached to that particular piece of property? Why can't you say if the hotel wants to do a thing over there, you need another 100 ERCs, let's sell them the ERCs, because when they buy that ERC, they're also gonna start out buying your water.
That's why I'm saying, that's what we're doing. You can sell your ERCs.
No, that's what I thought too.
I thought you can.
But you can only sell them if somebody's willing to buy them. I've been looking at this and going, who wants to buy an ERC? Nobody. I've been to the hotel. They want out of here because they can't make any money because of the ERCs. So, but what you have to do is make a change as to how do we get these ERCs sold as quickly as possible? When they, I hear the comment, well, let's, what's the hurry? The hurry is the meter's running every day that you don't have those ERCs working for you when you're not selling the water at the water treatment plant. That's what the meter's doing. And the problem that I see too is as soon as a developer comes in here, and I went back and I read literally from the first meeting that this place had until now, I read hundreds and hundreds of these things. And I got a really good idea of what's been going on here. Every time a developer comes in here, everybody says, not in my backyard. Yeah, we want you guys to come in, but don't do that. The guy came back here, he wanted to put something in. They all went, and he had to do a little bit of rezoning. They went to the county and they made sure that the zoning didn't get changed and it falls through. But this is a pattern that has gone on since this place was established. Everybody says, well, they're going to put an RV park in your back, for instance. Well, yeah, but you better not, it better be a really nice one and it better be 55 and older and all that stuff. You know what? It's really not the business of the CID to say what should go back there. They should say if it's zoned for that and we can make money from the water they're selling, that's what we should look like. That's what we should look at. Now, if you could have some influence on these folks and try to lean them towards what you want, can you beautify this, can you do this, do that? By all means, that's what you want to do. But the main thing is, you got to get this place built out to those 10,032 RCs. Because right now, you've got about a third of them that are giving you nothing.
But there are some variables. And I think we need to talk about it. One of the variables is this. Let's take Zeman. If you look at all of Zeman's properties, none of them are built near a community. None of them. This would have been the first one. They're out in the middle of nothing. That, whatever goes in back there, impacts working co and the resale value. And it could be an adverse impact. That's number one. Number two, in this instance, the CID owns that land. So if we sell that land, we're going to make $2 or $3 million bucks. The association, we're going to make it for you. You buy the land over there, we make nothing. We lose money. Now, water. How much do you think we make off of water? Nothing. Because water has a cost, especially when you have your own plant. And I'm not arguing with it. I think you're right. But water has a cost. Okay? Here was the closer for me. I asked, should we hand this plan over to the county? Okay? Are you kidding me? 77% of our total non-ad valorem is that plan. 77%. Why don't we just hand it to the county here? You run it. You've got the staff. You've got the purchasing. You've got everything.
Said, no.
Because it's too expensive.
Well, from their cost end of it, it's
right.
Too expensive.
Terry, can you explain to him why selling water makes sense?
Yeah, explain it to me.
I mean, you just had worked at Coke complaining that they were paying too much for water.
Yeah.
So now you're saying water's nothing.
Yeah, they don't want to pay the same.
No, what they're saying is they run a tight ship.
Well, so
it tightens our ship.
How much do we make on water?
It tightens our ship.
I know.
How do we know until the meters are in right?
Right. I'm going to help you. We don't get rich on water.
Well, the thing is, you've got the overhead of this great big facility, and if you're only using a small portion of it, that's just simple economics. The more, I mean, if you got if you got a car wash and you're washing 1 car a day in there, the fixed costs are very close to whether you're washing 100 cars in their day. Yeah, you're gonna have a little bit more water, but the main facility is the cost.
Right, and the assessments are gonna go down. You have 30% more people being assessed. It's gonna reduce everybody else's assessment in order to keep the place running. So we need to, whatever, it's not just the water that's generated, it's gonna be assessment. I mean, it's all included in the water, is the assessment. I mean, we charge $90, I pay $90 every 2 months for water. My friends at work, one guy, in Berkshire Lakes, I think it is, his minimum bill is $80 a month, minimum flat.
How much is your non-net?
And he pays $350. He pays $350 for his water bill by the time it's done every month. That's his average. Okay, so what's that?
That's outrageous.
That's the way it is. He's paying for the water.
What a lot of utilities do is they have 2 components of all their bills. One is a base rate.
Great.
Well, we need water, wastewater,
Sewage.
Well,
Water.
well, each of those components have two components.
Right.
And one is the base rate, which includes your basic operating costs, the debt service you may have on your facilities, keeping your CIP program going, those basic costs. And then you have another one called consumption. Well, you've got the consumption already in place. That's basically paying whatever it costs to produce that water, treat that wastewater, send that fire irrigation water out to the system. The way you are right now billing your base rate is through your annual assessments.
Right.
And people, I think a lot of people don't realize that annual assessment includes your base rate.
So should we change that? Just change it, put a base rate out there, it's $100, you start at $100, whether you use a drop of water or not.
But
So
I think-
you're gone, you're still paying.
Yeah, but when I said, all right, we're getting it from ERCs,
Right.
and this is our problem. But when I said delay them, postpone them till the construction is there, because when the construction happens, we'll start to get that money in.
Okay, but
We're not gonna get it with no construction because they're not using water.
Right, but
So
then,
we're not gonna get it that way either.
but then you've still got the hotel, okay?
Right.
Paying, like I said, four people at a table, 4 seats at a table is a conduit.
Mhm.
I mean, to me, that's unfair. So maybe if what's fair is a base rate and usage.
Well,
And then the rates go up, then you get that $300 bill every week, every month.
And there you go.
I mean, it's the same thing, you still get the same money, it's just distributed different. And then when land is vacant, fortunately, I paid for years, when land is vacant, they don't pay, except the base rate.
They pay the base rate for no consumption.
Right.
And of course, the impact fees is another thing that utilities typically do have impact fees. But that's calculated based upon the cost of adding more plant capacity as more people come online.
But we don't need to add more time.
Right, you've got,
Well, we did it
right now, you've got a cap.
We
You've got
did
a
it
cap.
first. We didn't anticipate these deadbeats not paying.
But that's in the past, we're past
But yeah, it's
that.
in the past, but like this land back here, our hands were tied up to 2 or 3 years ago. There was nothing we could do about it.
I know, I'm just trying to get down to the fairness issue, what everybody should pay.
Kathy?
Okay, I mean, paying a vacant land, and if they pay the base rate, well, then they pay that. Right now, base rate is $1,700 on a vacant lot. $1,700 a year. Instead of, well, if it was $100 base rate, it'd still be $1,200. But it's less.
Right, so you're gonna shift the ERC monies into base rate.
If it's,
So
yeah,
either way.
just,
you know,
then,
And actually, it's your annual assessment. ERCs is just how you calculate it.
Yeah, well,
The ERCs are part of your annual assessment.
right.
It won't work.
It's the same thing.
You're balancing, you just play with numbers, you know.
It only works, you just spread the wealth.
You shift it a little bit
No,
different.
same.
It's-
No, it's not the same.
Your main goal is how do you get this property
Under construction, if you get people paying for water that they aren't using, basically, when you increase the.
Right, got that when you have a base rate.
Right.
Right,
So
yeah,
what do you
that's the base rate to keep everything operating. No matter who's here, that's the base rate. It would still cover basic operation.
Let's take your
CIP
deal.
has that. CIP has that. Your ERCs are broken down by operation and O&M, right? Operation
Yeah,
and
but
maintenance.
that's the assessment. We're talking about the bill, right?
Yeah.
The water sewer
Oh,
bill.
water bill.
Let's take your deal. This is a good example. This is why we're doing this discussion. Let's take your deal. Right now, the owner of that place pays us 40 grand a year. You go in, you buy it, and we lose 35 grand a year.
Why?
So
He's still gonna pay.
you know, if we take away the ERC, because he's asking for only 2 or 3 ERCs. So,
Well,
okay, so how many total?
You'd have to establish it. You'd still have to pay.
Well, it depends. If you go back in the records, it says there's 12. If you go in the records now, it says 20. There's no place where it's showing where it shifted from 12 to 20, but let's just, right now, he's paying taxes on 20. The guy paid the same amount of money as he's selling it for now, right?
Right.
He carried that for like 14 years and paid $40,000 a year on it.
Right.
Why do you think he's getting rid of it now?
Okay, but it doesn't matter.
Oh.
If we're an association, he volunteered to do that. Nobody put a gun to his head. So if we're the association and we're losing 35 grand a year so that you can buy it, that's just stupid.
Because then you're asking the rest of the community to
Bingo.
cover that loss.
Okay, taxes, so you're better off just leaving the land vacant then, right?
We're getting paid on it.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, but that's what we're doing in the back.
Somebody should have to pay the money. Somebody has to pay the money to run this CID. Whether it be in your non-ad valorem, your ERC, whatever, it's all taxes. It's all taxes. And somebody has to pay it. You either spread it out among more people or you localize.
Fire department, we're paying a higher rate than most of Cuyahoga County.
I know.
All right, so when you try to ask the rest of Cuyahoga County, you want to supplement me? They don't want to do that.
And that's another thing I want to get the fire department in here, and I want McCaster down here to explain all that coke money that, we don't get.
But as it stands right now,
How is it?
I'm not saying it's fair,
Okay,
but it's not fair to ask the rest of the community. Oh, you could ask for it, but they don't want to do it. That's why it hasn't happened.
well, I'm just saying, we're never gonna go
That's
to
an
the back
example.
unless we
That's
change
just-
what we're doing with the ERC.
Nancy, you got it too. I texted just now. This is gonna make it even more interesting from Ron Benson. To my knowledge, all ERC transfers went through district rules, whatever those are. They were always one owner to another owner, with the CID not involved in how much the sale price was between the private parties. That means, in other words, if it's 20 ERCs, it's 20 ERCs.
Kathy, my comment is for 4 conversations ago, but the point being that I agree with everyone. Okay, my brain power's down here, ERCs are up here. I don't know a lot about them, except for the fact that if someone doesn't pay for them, we all have to pay for them.
That's right.
That's exactly.
You got it.
We have.
That's it.
Now, my second comment being, we need to sell this land, and who is the CID to say that we can't, that somebody can't put a trailer park back there? How many people are here that 20 years ago, we had a trailer park? With rat infested, but what happened was community involved. What I'm saying, we don't want that to happen again. That's why we're putting
I have a boat. Rats go on boats too.
Absolutely.
It's water. That's where the rats are coming.
People that had worked here 20 years ago don't understand why we don't just sell it as a just plain old trailer park.
That's right.
Because we don't want the rat infested, weed infested place back here.
But yet
That's what I gotta say.
you want your other things to go up in cost because you don't want.
No, she's saying the same thing we're saying.
I think we should sell the property, but we should sell to
Highest and best use.
reputable, high end.
In this instance, it's only because we own the land that we're selling.
Right.
Other than that, we would have never been a seller.
Right.
Right.
Don't say never, because I was going to buy across the street to be able to control who bought it. You know, I do think it is.
That's why we want it. We're not a land business.
We're not in the land business, but we are very interested in keeping our community property values at the highest level, and that protects everybody.
The lowest level that's necessary.
Yeah, it does take all of us. We should all be.
I still want to buy. So again, to my original point, is we have to do something different. ERC's favorite hands.
Agree.
We have to do something.
Well, I think Terry's idea is good.
You know what?
Terry's idea of phasing in kind of a, you know, if someone buys it, to be able
Well,
to
what
phase
he's
it in.
saying, if he
I'm
wants,
okay with that.
right now, he only wants to use 2 or 3 of his ERCs, and you delay the rest, I think there has to be an end to the delay, because he might never use it.
He doesn't want to delay it, he wants to get rid of it.
Problem with that.
What he wants is what we can do.
Right, that's right. He doesn't want to delay it, he wants to get rid of it.
Been done in the past.
There you go.
Who's gonna pay for it?
There you go.
The next developer wants to sit and develop something and needs ERCs.
So we wait.
We just spent 30 waiting on this.
But we're getting paid.
No, back really? Back here.
Over here we are.
You should be over down here. Yeah, but let's see. Once we get some information, I'm sure we'll be able to hopefully move forward, but.
We agree, there has to be a change.
We have, what we changed for these people, we're gonna have to change for other people. And
The minute you
I don't know, I
change,
the hotel, but I still don't think that's.
everybody's taxes would go up, so the money has to come from someplace. Let's face it. I agree with you. The money has to come from someplace. There are only 2 places. Most likely one is taxes.
Your pocket.
Yeah, and what the board wants to do is to be a reallocation basically of the benefits of the British property. And that requires an assessment methodology, and that required Cal and Nancy can do it, or others can do it. There are other parties out there. Gateway went through this last year. They reallocated their operation and maintenance assessments, left the debt service alone. And it went through, it was like a 1.5 to 2 year process. They had more partials. They had town hall meetings to explain it and went through it all. And they re-characterized everything. Some were higher, some were lower.
We don't have any debt service.
Just give an example of Gateway, how they handled it. They didn't touch the debt service side, they did the O&M side. So, I mean, that's not a short process, in my experience, and you have to have a legally defensible assessment methodology that it's fair and equitable. And so that's what, if you want to engage someone, Dave or Cal, you get that process.
And it goes back into what you want, a reassessment of how we're doing.
But that's global, if you want to do it global. It's like,
So like pooling your seat, pooling, it was like pooling them and see what kind of designate.
But even if we change, what happens if we do what she was saying, that you give them time?
that's not in the present. We have to change the rule.
So you would have to change your rule even to do that.
Correct. Problem with that is, it's the same thing Siemens saying when they saw the impact fees. Anybody that's gonna spend $2 million for a piece of dirt, they're gonna do their due diligence. And when they do, they're gonna say, whoa, what about this? And let me give you an example. The guy a few years ago that wanted to buy the old dead hotel, who did buy it for $26,000 at the courthouse steps. They did buy it. They came in here and they went to, Tony Davis was sitting right there. And they said, well, we want you to forgive all the past CID fees, which was close to $1 million, and we want you to give us 2 years into the future for free so that we can build. That's the same thing she's saying.
Is this Disney World?
No, it was here. And so you would lose all the past, and then, well, you're saying delay it, right?
Yeah.
No, I know that. You're saying delay to a new developer. You're saying delay. Right, delay it until the construction's done.
I'm new to this district and new to read the rules, but the rules have a section, David and I chatted briefly about it, section 4.35, relative to the method of determining the ERC necessary for commercial development to utilize the district's potable water and wastewater system. And it starts off with, each property that has provided services by the CID was assigned a specific number of ERCs as its allocation of capacity. The number of ERCs establishes a limit on the system. Then it says E, the allocation of utility service between the various properties was based on a methodology that assigned a numerical equivalency for utility services purposes between various types of development anticipated to incur on the property at the time the district was established and the facilities were constructed.
And there it is.
And then it has a single family residential unit assigned 1.0, and it identifies other equivalencies of planned uses. It doesn't have all planned uses in there. Right? Then it says the Board of Supervisors finds it is probable that a property owner may propose a use for their property that was not considered in the original determination of equivalency, and that it's more fair and certain to the owners of property and to the district if the district has a uniform policy for determining utility availability. The key is, prior to providing letter of utility availability to Caddo County, the district will review the proposed site development plan. We're not just talking concept, conceptual, a submitted site development plan, and determine the anticipated system demands from the proposed development does not exceed the system capacity reserved for the property. And then they go on that in the event that future development is proposed that involves types of development other than those identified above, then evaluation of the numerical equivalency is performed by the district's engineer. And there's a formula for how you do that. Then it says if the owner doesn't like it, then they can come to the board and present evidence for alternative assessment. But it has to be record documented objective data, in my opinion. David, do you disagree on that?
No.
I think that's the process. I mean, I understand we're talking about what's right, what's fair.
But the last meeting, I believe we asked you for a site plan.
Yeah, I haven't
Yeah, so we don't have one, so how can we move forward?
Well, and I completely understand where you're coming from, but part of it is, I was trying to figure out what did I have to develop on there, under which conditions. If I put something on there that I'm not going to use, all of it, now, before I forget, and I forget a lot, that east side there has got 10 ERCs on it. Well, all of a sudden, there's a third of that land that can't be used because it's conservation land. ERCs are not going to be assessed on conservation land. It's unbuildable. But they're still been doing it. They've been doing it for 30 years. You know, is that fair?
Has it been conservation land for 30 years? I don't know that.
Okay, I got a scenario for you. Say he takes that land, right, and he builds his storage units on it, that there's only a limit on it, there's a water bill with each one. That's it. And say he does the same thing across the street on, how many other acres? It's 5 or 6 acres. And it's just buildings with water bibs.
Yeah.
And it's got, and now he comes to us, okay, here's the plans, this is what it's gonna be. I need 3 RECs for the whole thing, 27, or how many can go away? 17 of them go away. And you're gonna say, what are we gonna say? We're gonna say, no, you can't do
I'm
that.
saying we can't say anything until it comes to us.
I know, but I'm just telling you, this is what it gives you. If I'm a businessman and that's what I want to do, and just like they're building down the road at the flea market, they're building those things that they're getting $350,000 a piece for. And what size is it? 50 by 25 or something like that?
25 by 55.
So you put a bunch of those over there, you count them all up, and you got 15, 20 hose bibs or whatever it is for each unit, and that's all you got. No sewer, no nothing. You know, I mean, so we take away all those ERCs, they're gone anyway. Right? You got
calling. Somebody's going to pay for those 17 ERCs.
Everybody's going to pay for it.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So no matter what
But is
you do.
everybody ready to pay for it?
Does anybody want to pay for it?
So wait, so he tells you this is his plan.
Right.
Okay, you're going to say no because it's going to spread those 17 ERCs over the rest of the.
But once again, that only is as to utility. It doesn't affect the ERC.
That's just utility.
Yeah, we still have the general mowing land.
And the rules are clear about that too.
Maintenance, yeah.
There's two separate.
General fund is different.
No, but the rule is very clear. So the determination of utility capacity, ERCs, does not change any allocation of ERCs.
Right. But I'm just saying, you keep saying we're going to lose
We are.
We can lose it no matter what.
No,
No, you're not gonna lose it.
you're not gonna lose it. You're gonna
Transferring it to somebody else.
Right.
Somebody else will have to pay it. Yeah.
Yeah, and one
Cost X number of times
other-
the blood of this.
one other aspect to it, you know, just reading. Just as whether your property uses all the utility capacity assigned to the property or not, it will continue to be subject to the same level of non-average system, unless until a transfer of ERC is made.
There it is. There it is. That's a district rule.
Again, I would suggest that, I don't know if Mr. McNeely's read the rules or not. Okay. So, and again, it's my first flush reading of them.
Right.
Rules, and if you need to.
Sorry.
Yeah, I was talking about the other kids. For water, if you don't need it, you don't pay for it. You know, otherwise, I don't know.
I thought ERCs were established according to what the benefit was to the property. Each property was said, okay, because you have the ability to hook up to water and sewer, therefore you need to pay that. I understand that completely. But if the benefit is outweighing what the property can bear, what's the point? I mean, some of these guys out here were paying for their property back in 4 years.
You say with the property, Ken, that's because you know what you want to build. If I wanted to build something else, I might need those ERCs.
Yeah, I understand the argument, but again, just looking at what I'm seeing today, there was an assessment methodology. My understanding was that process was validated too.
Yeah, we reviewed it, not too
So I recall the court validated that process. And if it's a final judgment of validation, that door is shut. Now, somebody may say, you all did it wrong back then, and the board may say, let's relook at it. Yeah, that's what they did in Gateway. They spent a year and a half, 2 years, went through that process saying, we need to change this. This community's grown, the developer's gone, et cetera, et cetera. And the board has an option to do that. But again, it's not an isolated lot by lot analysis, it's a global. And then you see the total impact of the community now too.
And that global part, that's the sinkhole. We can't afford it.
You gotta make so much money a year to pay that.
That's called the baseline.
But we have a base here already. We have a base here. I'm not talking about changing the base on the people that are here. Trying to expand the base to lower that base.
Let's take his example.
It's just that we're not giving anybody a chance when they come in.
Let's take his example. It's a good one. The owner of it currently, maybe was gonna put a motel on that land. Maybe he was gonna put 8 condos on that land, residential something on that land. More than likely, that's what the key was. So to him, there was a huge benefit to have 20 ERCs. To him, there's no benefit. He's the wrong buyer for that land. Now, there's another guy that's in the wings. They told us, let's put in boat sheds at the entrance to Case Drive. Boat sheds, okay? He's not gonna need them either, right? So I just talked to Dwin, I said, Dwin, he's in the same boat as him. He's not gonna want them either. They don't know what ERCs are.
But my understanding is when things got established at first, there was I might be wrong with the numbers, but 4 ERCs assigned to per acre.
Yes, yes.
That's how that was established.
Yes.
So how it was established is that it was called the district rule. Don't take this the wrong way. The fact that it doesn't work for him is too bad. He's not the right buyer. The fact that it might work for the Dewdrop Inn works for them. Because this is a unique situation. It's a district. And it has different rules. There are 24 districts in Collier County. There are different rules. It's like an estate property is what it's called. That's the problem. If the owner now is paying us 40 grand a year, and he comes in, and he's paying us a fraction of that, we the people just lost 35 grand a year. We gotta make that up someplace. When do we make it up? We raise their taxes and our taxes. There's no other place to get it. It's a baseline.
I do comment, Anna. You want to move on?
Well, I think we need to readdress this. So
But again, that could be board decision.
once you
it's a combination, it's engineer, management and stuff. They do all the analysis, to get an engineer's report, and you have a system methodology, to look at what you have. But the question is, what direction? I think we want to workshop that, say what direction.
Yeah.
Again, and to do that, you may want to hire an outside consultant to do it also. Somebody come in, press advise, and hear the
If I'm not
concepts.
mistaken, just like 2 years ago, since I've been on the board, Rob did a lot of research. It started with boat slips, but I think he did.
That was to help establish what the typical, what that particular use had its equivalency as far as a ERC.
Right.
I think what we're talking about now is, do we stay with the current annual assessment process that we're using for utilities? Or do we perhaps look at doing something a little bit different as far as charging an impact fee when somebody comes on board and we sell them whatever use he's got, that's when we charge an impact fee. And then also, do we restructure our rates that we have for each of the different categories, a base rate and then a consumption rate? You know, that may be something that may be worthwhile discussing.
And can somebody give me an accurate cost of what we're losing on that property?
About 350,000.
That's not usage and anything else. That's not
usage, but you never plan on usage.
But you don't have the
It's never
general
been
fund,
used.
you don't have the general fund in there, you don't have.
It's never been used. We don't plan.
What would you be able to base that
What,
on?
I'm just saying,
That's what she's saying. What would you base it on?
Right.
It's gonna have one toilet. I don't want to base it.
No, I'm not talking about that, I'm talking about this back here.
I know, it's the same thing, it's never been.
So say there's 300 units there. Say
Doesn't
there's
mean it's
300.
gonna flush 300 toilets.
I think what you're doing right now is you've been deferring your capital improvement plans and so forth because you haven't been able to get that income off that.
Right.
What we have right now.
So if there were 300 homes there, or whatever our availability is, 200 homes, say 200, keep it smaller, keep 200 homes there. What are we losing by not having 200 homes there?
You can't look at it that way. You never have.
Yeah, look at it that way. What if somebody wants to put in a department?
Why can't I?
You never had it to lose.
Because it's not accurate.
If that development went into default, then we've lost that income.
Right.
But it wasn't
I'm
developed.
not saying that, I'm saying, look
Yes, you
future, no, I'm saying, imagine there's 200 homes there right now.
But you-
We just built 15 homes over here right now in 1 year. So imagine you build a home over there, say it was full, what would it be generating for the revenue for this? Well, somebody should be able to answer that. It's for you to do it.
It depends on the home.
Right now, I mean, I want somebody to look into that, just on an average house. Doesn't make sense to me. You can't.
I think what Dave will tell you, that you may have additional income, but you have additional expenses.
Okay.
It's gonna offset a little bit.
And right now, we
We're
know
gonna be able
we
to
know
capture
that
some of that
ratio.
money for
No
capital.
matter what I would have gotten there, I would have needed it to spend to keep it going.
Okay, I think we
Look at
need to
it that way.
move on and
Yeah.
if we can still come back to this during this meeting even, but I think that there's some people that are waiting to talk about audience comments. We're not, and I still want.
Yeah. Let's just close.
Yes.
Are we gonna actually do the appraisal, so we'll have it in the next?
I don't know if you have it next meeting, I'll try. Okay, what we'll do is I'll prepare the agreement, and get it all, try to get it all on Monday now.
Yeah.
That's my signature.
What are you trying to say?
Pardon? What I said, I don't think that's true.
That's right. Yeah, if we can have it for the next meeting, that'd be really good, Tom.
Well, I can ask you if
You
you
think
can
you're
do
good, but you'd be great.
this. Yeah. Okay, great, would be great.
And I don't have
2 weeks ago, I lived on Newport Drive. I was exiting Newport Drive. As I was approaching where there's a stop sign right there, a car came around and almost hit me head on. There's no signs there that say, that's one way, that way. And the lady had missed seeing that who entered, there's a sign saying that it's just one way. Who exit, there isn't. And I just think we need to have do not enter sign or something, a little round, no, just as you exit to get onto 41.
Yeah.
There's nothing right there.
She was driving a white Honda van.
She was.
He's teasing.
I'm teasing.
She's not giving me out, that's it.
That's something that can be looked at, but again, it's FDOT jurisdiction, right, in that area, county signage.
Okay, so how can we move forward to get that, just so we have official signs?
Probably the same approach.
We'll reach out.
Well, while you're at it, I think at the end of K's, if someone drove it there before, we ought to look into if they'll put something there.
I got that, take a look at that myself,
Thank you.
about adding it, that's right down there.
We don't have to be drunk people.
Good idea.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Oh, my gosh. This is great. It's on time.
I'm excited. It's never happened before, right?
Before Tony came on board, I appreciate that.
So moved.
That was your favorite. You know, what's the number before I got?
You know what that was? That's because Cox was the attorney, they're all going, okay.
All right, now I'm gonna get my eyes checked, because I can read and see anything that's.
I knew this one.
This conference will now be recorded.
So,